Talk about things that might just blow your mind. Talking absolute DC and leaving everything else behind. Psycho! It's the Weird Science DC Comics Absolute DC Show. It's the Weird Science DC Comics Absolute DC Show. So let's go.
Psycho, Gray. I don't even know what that means. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Weird Science Absolute DC Comics podcast and streaming live on YouTube each time a book comes out. And this is the first week that we actually have two books. We have Batman and Flash. Flash being a book that a lot of people have been looking forward to, including myself. But I'm here with Gray. What up, Gray?
What up, Jim? How you doing? Eco, let's go, baby.
There you go. Whatever you say. Whatever it takes is what I say. But here we are to do the absolute stuff. And this is the first time we're doing two books. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see how they.
It's going to be 5 hours at least, isn't it?
Exactly, because I always tell you, like, hey, this won't be too quick. I've kind of, with me and you, I've kind of stopped saying that because it is, kind of a thing where we do go way too long, but we'll try. And in that we have Batman and Flash. We're going to start with Batman so that maybe we can take a little bit more time with the Flash. Though I said that to you before I read it. It's a weird issue. It's very odd.
It is.
Yeah, and it's one of those where I hope that while we talk about it, you can kind of convince me to like it a little more. Not that I don't like it, but I had so much hype, leading into it. I love Jeff Lemire. I do love The Flash, and I was really, really excited for it. And it just ended up being a different type of issue, I think. And I did talk to a bunch of people. They kind of had the same idea. The idea, well, I like it, but I don't really get a grip of it yet, and I hope that it gets better.
A lot of it's set up, isn't it? It is a big setup issue, and I think loads of people were hyped for this, Jim. So maybe the hype was too hyped,
and
too much.
That does happen. I mean, it happens a lot when you get so hyped up for it. And again, we said this the last episode. If you have questions, super chats, all that sort of thing, we will take a little bit of time at the end to go through those as well. But I do watch and look at the comments as we go and kind of mix some of that stuff in. But we will get right to it. And I did say, just to prove that, I will say that there was a mention by Kane that he likes the intro song, but he did like the old one, 100% Eric. That was his theme, and I kind of feel weird playing that now that he has left the show. That's why we ended up having a new theme. And since I'm going with Gray, I had to have at least some pseudo-Japanese in it. And at least I didn't, I do mention that you're Japanese AI. I usually do that all the time anyway, but we will end up by the end. We'll have a special song at the end that I end up doing for you for our Usagi Yojimbo podcast that we do on
Usagi
our Patreon.
Yojimbo.
So it'll be an odd play, but at the end you will hear a Usagi Yojimbo theme song that is almost all in Japanese, but I kind of like it. I told you it was the ultimate theme, but maybe the absolute theme since we're here for the absolute books. But we're going to jump into this, and we are going to start with the Batman, Absolute Batman number 6. It is written, of course, by Scott Snyder, art by Nick Dragotta, colors by Frank Martin, letters by Clayton Coles. And you start off in this, and it's pretty much the purge. We set that up in the last issue, and for some reason, and it probably isn't, it probably came out exactly a month later. I don't know why. I kind of lost track of what happened at the end of last issue with these boxes being dropped down in a very video game-esque type deal, where these, boxes of weapons and masks were dropped in Gotham. And basically you had Black Mask say to everybody, hey, everybody let's join the party. You can go. And there's all this stuff that pops up in these masks. We actually get to see that as well. And all hell is breaking loose in Gotham. But this is what Black Mask wants. He wants to have this chaos going on, and he's certainly getting it, right? I mean, these people are losing their minds, and I know for a fact I'd be right there with them, getting these masks and trying to make $1 million. That's what I would be doing because I need the money. right?
It's crazy, Jim, and it does, I mean, it's over the top, of course, but it portrays a very dark and like mercenary Gotham City where
Yeah.
everybody's out for themselves. All they want to do is get some money, even if it means just killing random people on the streets.
People. And you do see
Crazy.
that these masks do end up having the heads up display where it will recognize somebody and it'll give you an amount based on what Black Mask wants you to have. And even like
Yeah.
some no-name guy seems to be worth at least $10,000. They show this one guy, but say a Jim Gordon or a Martha Wayne, they're worth $1 million, which is insane.
$1 million for
It's
Jim Gordon.
insane.
Unbelievable.
I mean, holy moly. I think I might turn myself in or something to get that if it was me. But you end up where all that going down and Waylon is in his gym, kind of sequestered in, and somebody comes in and he's like, hey, you're going to be in trouble. I'm AFC champ. I'm like, oh, well, what are you,
picked the right night
part of
to
the
break
Kansas
in,
City
mate.
Chiefs? AFC. You end up, so they end up, hey, I'm Croc and all this. And you do end up having Bruce say, it's me. Hey, Waylon, it's me. And he's hurt. He needs some help. And when Waylon comes over and says, oh, my God, what? And then he realizes that, and Bruce says, because I'm Batman.
So what do you do wearing Batman's costume?
Exactly. He's like,
hang on a minute.
What are you cosplaying here? What are we LARPing? You loser? And he's like, no, I'm Batman. And, Waylon doesn't take that so well. And I do like the progression. It's a very Scott Snyder-esque deal where you will then go back to a point where Martha's talking with Bruce and they're looking through things. Bruce is having a nightmare of a sleepover. It all kind of ties in, but I think it was really well done. I really did enjoy this issue, and you do get more of, little Bruce after Thomas had been killed.
Oh, Jim, that sleepover moment is so cute.
Oh, it is.
I think, you need that in this issue, don't you? You need the kind of the light to come, separate from the darkness, because there's so much darkness, as we said.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely over the top dark in some of the things. And when you end up reading this, if you are somebody who says, hey, I don't like this Absolute Batman because it's so much different than Batman or more violent, you're not going to like this because, boy, he goes over the top. And again, I even see in the chat, Brandon said it reads like a cheesy action film. And
yeah,
I think that could be an insult. But it also could be a plus because it does play off like that and kind of you can have fun with it. But it does get very, very dark.
I think it's meant to be, isn't it? It's meant to be over the top.
I mean, he's like purposeful. 9 feet tall. I mean, crying out loud. And I think
the size of his thighs. Yeah. It's like a continent.
And I think Brandon will even know because of the idea of the things going on. They did end up showing some pictures of Bane because of the solicits and things like that. And Bane is like way taller than Bruce, it looks like, but has a pinhead. Very odd looking, almost a Goofy-esque the way you have it. But Bruce and all this, it is really over the top, but in a fun way. It has a little bit of like a wink doing it, though. Yeah, when you get into this and you end up getting so violent, I know that some people will have problems with it. I just have problems with it because I think that there's no way that the Black Mask doesn't die in this issue. I can't see how he survives. But this the sleepover moment's cute. And it's classic. And I have 5 kids. I have 5 boys. Every night was a damn sleepover like this. But it's funny because when you mix a girl in, it really throws off everything where they're making fun of, hey, maybe they'll share a sleeping bag. And it was very nice and cute.
Come on, we know you guys like each other. It's like,
yeah, exactly. And it was really cool. And you get embarrassed of that and stuff like that. Now, in this, you're going to have the reactions of some of the friends here and what they think of Bruce being Batman. And the idea of it does seem to not be like, oh, we're bad guys and the Batman, whatever. It's just, hey, that's a secret that you kept from us. And it seems like that. It seems like the idea of why didn't you tell us before? But even before that, you do have Bruce having a nightmare. Ends up with the deal of him thinking his mom got killed. And it really plays out well, too, because they'll end up going through their picture book. They're going through the pictures. And the one picture that we see again in this issue is a picture that was taken right before Thomas ended up being killed. And when he has this nightmare kind of deal, it's the kids again, his friends there with him. So it's almost like the same situation, but now they're having a sleepover and then he wakes up and he wants to talk to his mom and that'll continue on. You'll jump back and forth between these things, but I think it's done fairly well. I think that it's done. You're not like confused at some point. It really is kind of cool. One thing though is, do you think if you have a mask on, do you think they'll know then who somebody is through the mask, because they end up where Martha puts on the mask to see how this works. And oh my God, here's the things you can get money for: arson, robbery, assault. But if you do look at somebody, there's a heads up. And she looks at Gordon like, oh my God, like you're worth $1 million. In this whole thing, Gordon keeps telling Martha to get going, get out of here. I'll just stay here. I'll fend them off and whatever. But why take the mask off? You know what I mean? Like, you know that you're wanted. You know that Gordon is. Get masks on. Just cover your face. Do something.
Yeah,
and
disguise yourselves.
Yeah, they're kind of just
Too
like
late.
kind of hanging. Yeah, and then everybody's like, oh my God, we're a target. And
That's a good point, isn't it, Jim? Does it recognize them with the mask on or
Yeah.
not? How good is his technology? It's not clear, but I think they realize straight away, wait a minute, this is Jim Gordon. They can recognize him, can't they?
Yeah, and
It's too late.
they're going to
It's too
go
late.
after him. And the weird play of it is like I said, they're there, and Gordon just is like, oh man, like I'm going to fend them off, and both of them are worth $1 million. These guys who end up being kind of these pseudo party animals, the guys that are getting the mask out of the crate and do it, I don't think they'd hesitate that long. You know what I mean? If I'm there, and I'm not saying that I'd kill a man, maybe, but the idea, like, you see $1 million, I think you're reacting and shooting right away, not just the idea of like, hey, I don't want to kill the ladies, but I'll do this and I'll do that. I'm like, yeah, I think that was a little stretch. Like, I think these guys would be rootin', tootin', shooting right away, try to get the
me
million.
too.
And how do you verify cheers? It's kind of a weird play, but again, it's all just to sow chaos. That's all it really is. And in the end, you may not even get money. Who knows? Because of the way that it's played out. But you then end up, and this is kind of a weird little play here, because it's Gordon's daughter. You end up.
I wasn't sure who this was at first. I was going to ask you, this single page, it left me a bit confused.
And
who's this on the
kinda-
train here?
With her going and through the scenes of, I'm not Gordon. I'm sorry, I meant Alfred. Alfred's daughter. So you end
It's
up where
Alfred's daughter, right?
through
yeah,
the
sure.
deal, when you do go back and then you get Alfred and they're in the play, like things jump like in weird ways of like, oh, she's in the train, the subway, and then you see some of these party animals, these masked guys, and then next thing there she's with Alfred, but they're in the plane, like
I thought she got grabbed.
yeah,
on the train.
and
I thought that
again,
was her in the
it
last
might
panel.
be the play, and maybe some people will say that maybe the play is that is actually Gordon, I keep saying Gordon, Alfred, who's disguising himself so he can get to her, grab her, and then take it. It's very odd. It's a very odd scene where it is happening. And there is and it's Julia Pennyworth. They end up where everybody's getting alerts, stay in at home, stay in, don't come out, whatever. And she's saying that to the phone of who she's talking about, but she does get grabbed. And again, it might be that it's Alfred disguised with the mask to go and get his daughter, to get her out of the city. Then I thought he left with her, but it doesn't seem he did. And so it was a weird play with that. And again,
it was.
she wanted no parts of him. He kept trying to get a hold of her. He hasn't been in Gotham for a while. He comes back, but now all hell. And he says, I know what goes on when this happens. This shit's bad, and I want to get you out. He's trying to protect her, but she doesn't want to be protected and wants no parts of him protecting her as well, and says, if I leave, if this plane takes off, I no longer have a father. I'm thinking in my mind that what would that be different of what Alfred's getting now? Like, she isn't really talking to him either, and whatnot. So they go up, but it was weird. That play of her, Julia, in this was kind of an odd play. It was a kind of an odd play for all of it. And that's one of the things, again, that kind of threw me off a little, because like you said, I didn't know who it was at first, realized who it was. Then it looks like she gets taken. Then you have this whole connection. It was odd. But I'll let you go, because then you get what seems to be Oswald. You get Penguin, and he has this plane that he's taking Batman out, now knowing again that, hey, Bruce is Batman. So they're all freaking out. It seems like everybody...
He's not happy about it, is he, as well? It's like,
No.
you're Batman, and you didn't think it was something to tell, everybody?
Yeah. And remember, Oswald's the one who's kind of on the slide, not the greatest of guys. Remember, he was getting the illegal license for Waylon to have the exotic animals. So he's skirting between, breaking some laws and things like that. But again, it must be that play of, I grew up with this guy. He didn't tell us, and he's the stinking Batman. They've probably been sitting around, even when we don't see him, like, this Batman's a real jerk, and he's this and that. But now he's losing his mind.
We get Ozzy, like, he narrates, like, what people are thinking, what Bruce's friends all think about it, don't they? It's like, Waylon wants to punch you, Harvey wants to arrest you, Eddie says he guessed it weeks ago.
That jackass. Cool. And he did. We actually, when those issues came up, it did seem like Riddler was on it. That Edward was on it. And then says, and Selina, well, she'd probably think it's hot. That was good. Right?
That was good.
And in this too,
that's good exposition. That's really, concise, and it gets to the point straight away. So, okay, you know how people are feeling.
Yeah. And what I also liked about this too, of this scene especially, I think that Scott Snyder does a really good job of portraying friends who are mad, but they're still friends. They're all still best friends. So it's not like Oswald said, screw you. You didn't tell me you're Batman. I hate Batman. You're on your own. He's doing what Bruce asked him to do. He's
complaining about it, but he's still doing it.
Yeah, and that's what I love. It is when you're close enough, and they're kind of family, all of them together. That's what you end up doing. You bitch and moan, but you're doing it for them because you do care about them. And then starts to complain, I ain't waiting around for you. And I'm going to get back. And he's just like,
I ain't
that's
got enough
fine.
Fuel, man. Yeah.
He's like, I'm going to get out of here. And so what you
Bruce
end up...
like, I'm not asking you to, or anyone else.
I love it.
Loner thing, isn't it?
It's a shame that Oswald doesn't go, why are you using this crazy voice? Like, what's going on there, pal? But they go, and there's the...
But Jim, at least that fantastic panel, that full page.
Oh,
where you
great.
See
looks
Batman
like the
jumping
Dark
out of the
Knight
plane,
stuff.
the
And
Dark Knight, lightning in the background.
And
it's a cool
the bottom
image,
of
great
those
perspective.
Shoes are ridiculous.
Look at those bloody grips on the shoes.
He'll start kicking people with these things. I mean, the idea of them being shit kickers, it's like times 10.
I love the way he lands on the DJ later on as well. It's
it's the best because that DJ is so annoying.
She should be dead.
Yeah, it's so annoying, that DJ. We barely even got the DJ. I'm like, please, that music is ridiculous. But
got Morrissey in my head singing, hang the DJ,
it's
hang
pretty
the
good.
DJ.
While Batman is there and he's talking to Oswald, he does mention, just as, again, it's done well, that it doesn't seem forced. It's just to remind us that Edward did end up saying, with his program he made and things like that you couldn't really take down the Black Mass entire network. It was too big, and it kind of, you take down one of the satellites, another one will pop up and things like that. But local servers can be crashed, and he's tracked one to the boat down below, which just happens to have Black Mask and his crew. And does anybody like these Twi'lek-looking jerk-offs? I wanted to find out what was up with them. You know what I mean? It's like the weirdest
They're so freaky.
thing. I don't know what they are, what they're doing. So you end up where...
They're like a cross between like Jabba's sail barge.
That's what I'm saying. It is like the sail barge and the Twi'leks.
Charlie the Chocolate Factory. The
I'm like, this is weird.
What's going on, Jim?
I don't know. And he goes down, and I'm telling you, it's very satisfying that he lands on that jerk-off DJ. Telling the DJ's like, wicka, wicka, whack, and even's like dropping that beat like, what's that? Ba-boom. Hits it. He sees the life jackets, and I love that he just grabs this guy or gal, puts the life jacket and throws him off the side. So then
he's like, wait, maybe we can. He's gone.
Yeah,
he's thrown him over there.
Just activated the dental plan too.
These pages, by the way, these are great because there's almost no dialogue. It's all storytelling. It's all art. It's brilliant.
Speaking of which, Gray, if you wanted to really get a comic book version of what my mouth looked like after I ended up getting hit, it's right there with that DJ.
Oh, no.
That's pretty much just blood and teeth everywhere. So you end up where he gets kicked up.
At least he's not trying to stick his tongue through the hole.
That is true. What I do like, too, is that when Batman does this, he certainly looks like he could toss this guy 2 feet up but no, he crashes him right through the railings. He just kicks him through the railings.
It's deliberate as well, definitely, isn't it?
This guy's
okay,
out.
You're going to feel this.
This is where I had some people were telling me that this is bad because Batman wouldn't kick a baby. I'm like, this baby is, first off, I don't know what this thing is. It's a baby, but also playing off the idea that it's got a knife. And
it's meant to be a little
awful.
kid, isn't it? A little toddler. Yeah, he's trying to kill Batman.
He's got
the knife, like, swinging at him.
Going. And what the best is that when this baby girl, whatever, jumps, he grabs by the Twi'lek ear type deals, puts the life jacket on, and then basically punts it like he's Ray Guy. And it was the best because in my mind also, I love where I'm just a little kid. I'm like, I don't really think you are. I'm telling you, you're a little off. You're a little weird. But when he punts made me giggle so much. And people,
I think,
people are
most
so
people
mad
love
about
this
it.
scene. A
Oh.
few people were mad about it, but come on, you can't deny that you laughed out loud at
Yeah.
this. Come on.
And the
It's a
baby,
comic
and even
book. It's meant to be
Fairmont,
crazy.
it is like
It's meant
kick
to be
the
fun.
baby. Kick the baby.
Yeah.
It's so good. That made me laugh so much. That when they did that, I'm like, all right, Batman, that doesn't feel like a Batman thing, but I love it. And it's now the absolute Batman thing. It's so funny. And the way that they do end up doing that. And then you have the lady come out. And again, I don't quite know the connection. You almost play the idea, okay, that's like the mother. But she comes out, sees Batman, sees everything, and just jumps up the side.
She's out of there. She jumps.
She's the smartest one. She comes out and's like, kiddo, where are you? I don't even know if this kid even landed yet. And just ends up.
To be fair, Batman
jumping.
throws a lifeguard.
Yeah, he does. He throws it because he's like,
throws
yeah,
one
I'm
too.
pretty badass. So, and in that, like all this stuff and how Batman is without talking and all this stuff going on, pretty cool. I mean, when he's there, even with the life preserver and the wind is blowing the cape and whatever, it's really, really cool. And it's just a little panel. I just don't get what these people are or what they aren't or whatever. It's just so crazy. And again, you then go from there, which is a crazy scene, to then go to a kind of a quieter scene where it is Bruce and Martha, and they're looking through, their scrapbook, the pictures and stuff. And hey, this is when your dad was in a band called The Movements. And he's like,
Jim, this made me laugh
like,
so much. I don't know why I started thinking about you. So, the number twos.
Exactly. Hey, we're the number twos. And here we go. We're shooting up the number one. You end up where it's like, that sounds like I told him. He's got the mullet going. It's pretty cool. And it definitely gives you a different feel for
Brucey's
Martha
dad had a
and
mullet.
Thomas.
Look at Thomas Wayne.
Yeah,
back
it's
in
great.
the day.
It's Mullet City tonight. We have a couple mullets going on because Wally. And then goes and turns the page, and there's the picture of the crew. There's the kids there. And Bruce, again, he's like, I don't want to upset you, Mom, but you realize that was the picture of the day Dad died. He took it right before he died. She has an explanation of it. I don't buy it. I'm telling you, if this was me, I wouldn't want to see that picture, even though she's like, well, it shows how strong we are. And your dad this. I'm like, nah. I don't need a reminder of that day. But she kind of explains it. It makes sense to Bruce. But then we go in the now where you do. And I'll give you two. When you're doing that scene, obviously, it's a flashback type of thing. And it's just, but they do play off the idea that it's a little muted colors with that. So exactly. But already. But you go back to all the people with their masks, because a bunch of people came over and they're like, hey, man, we got $1 million over here. We should, kill all these people. And it becomes a play where at one point Jim says to Martha, get out of here. You don't have to be here. And she's like, no, I'm your deputy mayor deal. I am not going to bail. And he just keeps begging her to go. And when these guys come in, they just start debating, should we shoot these people in the face? But it's really just set up, through the idea that unknown people here, $10,000. It's still pretty good. A lot of people are dead.
What's going on here, Jim? Gordon he's basically kind of guarding one of the boxes, isn't he? He's like stopping them getting the mask. But they're everywhere. If you look in the background, there are boxes all over the place.
Yeah, it's like, but you got to get it's like when you have a kid and they have that toy that they haven't played with for 6 months, and then somebody wants it. Like they want it then. I'm like, just go get another box.
It's got to be that one.
And it's weird too, because they're like, let us get through here, but they already have masks and guns and things. So
that's right.
It's an odd play, but you shoot them in the face, you're $2 million richer. But the one guy's like, I don't want to kill a lady. I'm like, okay, I hope you don't want to kill anybody. But they're like discussing things. I'm like, it's just to get the time going so that Bruce can do what he's doing. But it felt odd. Like I said, I think that they would just go boom, and away we go. Let's just kill everybody. Let's just start shooting. But they do end up taking their sweet time as we then go off.
You can imagine, you can understand like Mayor Gordon, $1 million, fair enough. But Martha, deputy mayor, $1 million. She's worth the same as him. What's going on there?
That'd be great. Gordon's pissed. He's like, what the hell is this? And he's like, I'll give you an extra $1 million if you kill me. He's like so angry about it. Again, that's a crazy amount of money. But we've seen Black Mask just throws money, and then, Bruce just burning the shit away and all that nonsense. But you do end up having like that little standoff there to then go and see Julia now in this plane, maybe even handcuffed.
With
You can
Alfred.
kind of see her arms maybe, but she's there and says, you better not take off. We got to get out of here. I thought Alfred was going with her, but he must just say, hey, get out of here. And she
He's
says,
like, I'll bring you back to Gotham in a few weeks, when it's calmed down, when it's safe. And she's like,
it's weird. It's a weird scene. And
this
a weird
one
way
felt a
to
bit
do
clunky
this.
here, this scene, Jim. When she gives this big exposition about that little bag she had under her bed.
Yeah,
I was like,
and I wanted to go with you, and I wanted to do
I was waiting
this
to
and
go
that.
with you.
I thought it was going to be every time you left, I wanted to get the hell out of town.
Get the hell out of here.
Dodge. But she's like, yeah, I wanted to go with you. And now that you're here, if we take off, I don't have a father anymore. And she's like, the guy's like, we have clearance. What do you say? I say, wheels up, Captain. But somehow that he gets out of there or whatever because he ends
Poor
up
old Alfred.
Yeah,
he just can't win, can he? He can't do right for doing wrong.
And like I said, I mean, really, he tried to call her before when he got back into town. She wasn't answering. And basically, what does he have to lose? He just doesn't want her to die. I'm sure she'll realize that at a point. But we go back to where the fun is, and it's that yacht. And
this is a great fight scene,
it's
isn't
so
it? It's
crazy. Yeah.
This is Roman, isn't it? Leaping off the top there.
Yeah. Look at him, too. He's like just leaping down like he's the Monkey Prince. He ends up
hyped up. He's
oh
on
my
something.
God, yeah, he is. And then Batman just wallops him with those shit-kicking boots, knocks him into the wall, and he kind of like is taking a breath. And the air's knocked out of him. He's like, you still don't get it, do you? You think you can stop them? You think you can stop anything that's coming? Let me tell you a little. And he doesn't get any further where Batman just comes and just levels him. He just tackles him through the wall.
In through the wall, into what appears to be a bowling alley.
I'm like, holy moly.
On the ship?
Like, I need
these
the
bowling
ship.
balls, Jim.
What is this? What is this? Mario Lemieux ship,
Are these
right?
spare, helmets for the Black Mask?
It looks like bowling balls, right?
It does.
And then
Batman picks one up and starts punching him with it.
Yeah, and he just starts hitting him.
He should be out. He should be on the floor, knocked out.
And then Batman says, go on, keep talking. And he's just leveling him, just beating the crap out of him. And now they're falling through the floor. Now they're going into what looks like the False Face Society room that they go in, and you have all these different masks and things like that. So obviously he can do stuff with that. And now they're just like going and Black Mask ends up getting this jump rope because everybody has one there. And he twisted around Batman's neck and he's choking him out. I mean, cutting him, bleeding, but geez, that neck is thick. As Batman is trying to, escape, you mix in
it's a good
the
job
idea.
He's got such a thick neck.
That
saves his life.
Holy cripes. And he's thinking about the hopefulness that his mom was telling him about the picture. Well, she says, when things are rough, believing you can make a difference, being hopeful, it's not easy. And she's talking about that picture again. I'm like, I don't quite get exactly what she's saying and why that would make any sense, and saying the idea that, but then what looks like you see.
Black Mask brings up the pig story again.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute, where are we now? Are we in Hannibal?
Exactly. And so you're going back and forth with the idea of hope from when the worst day of Bruce's life to the juxtaposition of him like, by the way, I want to tell you again, I really like to zap them damn pigs. It was awesome.
Yeah.
They didn't know it was coming, and
best
they were
sound in the world when they scream,
sound.
when they thought they could get out.
Yeah, so you end up where Martha's like, still, because no matter how hard things got, and they were rough sometimes, your dad stayed hopeful, but he was always at his most hopeful about you. And I'm like, you're still looking at the picture that was the day that he died, and they were only there because Bruce ended up making that crazy bridge that looked like a bat and whatever. I still think, I don't quite get it. But Batman then ends up saying, hey, was that squeal like them pigs? Was it like this? All of a sudden, the bat ears, and seriously, it gets so crazy. They're like Kelly Jones Batman ears, so they're long as hell. And I swear to God,
they start moving. They start turning.
They go forward. So everything on his suit seems to be a weapon. Is the deal? It looks kind of ridiculous when he does have them forward. It looks like he's got weird beats on, but he then stabs through Black Mask, and I don't know how he's not dead. This is what I was talking about. I mean, you're stabbing him through what looks like, his brain. That thing is long. It's going in there. It's not just breaking, and you end up having what looks like, I don't know, motor oil coming out or whatever, but it looks like something that would definitely just kill you.
It's
but
totally
it does,
over the top, isn't it, Jim? This
yeah,
panel,
it's
this
so
page.
over the
My
top. And
God,
I
so
think
violent.
that you're supposed to end up looking at it as a way of like, oh, it's so over the top and cool, but I just keep thinking, I'm like, I think he might be dead, but he does
If
keep
he's not
talking.
dead, he's at least blinded him for
Yeah,
life,
yeah.
surely.
And again,
But
we don't even know what's
no.
under the mask. So it's
No.
very odd, right? And Brandon actually said it is the idea that he's poking eyes out like Steven Seagal and Marked for Death, which is true. What we need is a couple more clotheslines. Those are great too. But yeah, it's really, really crazy what he does. And again, if people are going to be upset, I would say be more upset about that than kicking a baby. That's a Twi'lek into the ocean. That was hilarious. I could watch that and look at that all day. But the idea of this, I'm like, holy crap. But then he does kind of moan. He's like, oh, you effing lunatic. You'll lose everything. Everyone you love, I promise you, have no idea what you started. So that is the play of if Black Mask lives and then these people are in big trouble. They're in big trouble throughout the whole deal. So with all that, you can only, hope that maybe Black Mask dies or he doesn't know.
I think it's just empty threats, because he doesn't know who Batman is yet. It's just the classic thing, isn't it? I'll get you, I'll get your family, everyone you care about. It's the mob threat.
Why I mentioned earlier, when you have one of those masks on, can you see somebody through a mask that he has it? So if that's the case, is there a possibility that, say, Black Mask has the technology himself and he can see through that cowl? I don't think he can. But that was kind of the play there. And it's not like he says, hey, Bruce. It doesn't seem like he knows. So it is empty threats, but it is saying that if I ever find out anything, they're definitely dead. But yeah, he just throws Black Mask overboard. He just throws him in the drink. And then he walks through what really looks cool, that server room, because he has to bring this down. Now, the tension in this is that Gordon and Martha are, face to face. There's a standoff going on. These people want the money. They start talking, we're not going to kill the woman. We'll split the Gordon money. Then Martha starts yelling to them, you're better than this, but I don't think they are. And then Batman ends up blowing up the server room, which does seem, and you do see, and I think it was Brandon, but somebody did say in the chat, it does look like he blew himself up, because there's no real time frame of, oh, he jumped out or whatever. And this boat just goes down. Like maybe pull the plug, right? Or kick something over, but he blows everything up. I don't know how he gets back, except we do see that Alfred shows up, which again seemed a little forced. But with all that, you end up Batman sinking, and also Martha is disgusted by the scum of Gotham and says, I am disappointed in you. I'm saying she's acting so crazed here. I think they might shoot her just to shut her up now. They're like, we're not going to get the million, but shut this lady up, because she's berating them and things like that. But it was a good moment. And I did think we were going to get more, because most people reading it do think that Martha and Jim might be shacking up, and I thought they were going to kiss here. She does knock out a guy. That's kind of cool.
Nice left hook there from Martha. Look at that.
Yeah, really good. And the crack there, Sully will love it. But yeah, and then you go and Batman kind of falls into this bat submarine type deal that you end up having Alfred there and pulls him in. And then at the end, he's like, okay, let's get you patched up. And the best part of that is that's classic Batman and Alfred. Like the idea, and they aren't quite classic Batman and Alfred in this. And that was a kind of cool play of Alfred saying, we'll patch you up. Bruce is like worse for wear, but again,
Jim, it's hard to see, isn't it? Here, has he lost his left ear here?
It does look like that. That is probably still sticking in the mask, a black mask.
Yeah, it's probably stuck
still
in
going
Robin's
down
eye.
there. And then Batman, you didn't see it, but Alfred's like, so what happened? He's like, I kicked a baby. And then Alfred's like, now you're my Batman, kicking a baby. The thing is, there's certain things that happen in the New 52. It's something that, not a lot of people end up thinking back at the deal. But at one point in the New 52, Scott Snyder had Batman just level Harper Row, just punched her right in the face. And I never forgot it. And I think now this could go on for 20 years. And in the 20th year, I will still mention that Batman kicked a baby. And it makes me laugh every time. It's so funny. But it was good. It was good. It was like straight up, the play of an over-the-top Batman. It's been set up. I mean, this guy has a bat dump truck that was underneath a skyscraper. He ends up getting a quadrillion money, and he ends up burning it to make a bat symbol. Everything is really over the top. It continues to be, but it's fun. And when I read it, I can separate, obviously, that this is the absolute universe and things like that. So I do want to have fun.
Too.
And you want to see things in an absolute deal that you've never seen before. Say a Wonder Woman raised in hell. say Superman with that jerk off haircut, right? You get all the things, but I've never seen Batman kick a baby, so I'm like, I like it. I like this kicking the baby.
Not even in
Batman.
Frank Miller's All-Star.
No,
Batman
I mean
Robin?
not even
no,
that.
No,
When he says he's the GD Batman, but he's the GD Batman that kicks babies, and I'm like, I like it. Though again, it's not perfect, but I thought, and just to go back to the deal I didn't mention, but the idea that I couldn't quite remember where we left off the last issue. This issue, actually, there feels like there's a bit of a jump, like Scott Snyder ends up doing this to kind of push things forward, which I'm always for. But you do seem to have left behind some things, and I do think that we're going to have another one of those, hey, let's have a flashback issue. I want to see any sort of training. I want to see how he ended up doing a bunch of the things he did. But for now, he's kicking babies. So I'm in. It was so good. It was so good. It made
Not
me
just
laugh
kicking
so
babies,
much.
but like punting them off a boat into the ocean.
I'm telling you, it's like such a
How many points for that? Did he score, Jim, with that kick?
Well, yeah, maybe. I want to say that he's playing Australian rules football, so you can have that, and that guy in the white coat doing the move that I never understood. But in that, it's pretty good. So what would you give this?
It's great. It ties up the first story arc, the zoo, isn't it? The six-parter. So entertaining. As you say, completely over the top, but I loved it. I really enjoyed it. Very, very enjoyable. I'm going to go 8.5 out of 10. I'm almost a 9, Jim, but not quite. 8.5.
No, I think I'm 8.8. I'm a little bit more, and I'm glad Sonny Waffles ended up saying, and we didn't quite say, but what saves Gordon and Martha is that the server shuts down at the exact moment where these guys, and it does show you the idea, these guys are pieces of crap, but they're pieces of crap because they want some money, and oh my God, this is an easy score. The minute that you end up having the server go down, and then suddenly you're not going to get we're not going to get money, and they even say, what, we're not going to get paid. They do stop then, which does save Gordon and Martha, but that's why Martha's kind of pissed off then and uses the left hook. So I really thought that was pretty cool with that.
Well, no wonder she's pissed off, because they were ready to kill her, weren't they? In the end, when she said, no, I'm not going to leave him. I stand with you. I've seen your faces. I know who you are.
Yeah,
I'll charge you. Like, again, okay,
that's
sorry,
where when I
Mrs.
said,
Wayne.
When you say that, you're expecting them to shoot her in the face. I'm like, you don't say that stuff. Just say you guys are pieces of crap. You better be better going on for it. But I kind of do, because she doesn't really solve anything by saying that, and then she punches the guy. I'm like, you're really pushing it. I think if they were like, let's kill the lady first, she wouldn't have been so trash talking. I think she was relying on the idea that they said that. But yeah, I thought the idea that it was pretty good, and Brandon is very worried that I like books too much lately. That I'm actually a little more positive. I think that...
Is this the new Jim?
I think,
folks,
lo and behold,
in the chat, is this the weird science positive Jim?
I'd love to say that Eric made me miserable, but that wasn't the case. And he was usually a little more positive than me of some things. But I don't know. Maybe it's just a newer...
It's a mixture of me and Sully, I think.
Yeah,
and
actually,
else. We're kind of like slowly, changing Jim's mind
I do
about
like
books.
talking to you and Sully, and I am kind of, I don't know. I can't say that anything's different, but I've actually liked a bunch of these books, and maybe I'm high. I don't know. Maybe that's the guy. I did actually take my Adderall right before we started. Maybe that's it. I got some euphoria going on with this. But no, I thought this was really cool. And I'm really liking
it's good to be
the
positive
stuff.
Because if you remember, before these all started, before the Absolutes kicked off, we were all kind of down, weren't we? DC.
And if you're doing
place.
Marvel as well, it really gets depressing. Yeah. And some people will say in the chat even, hey, but the indies are great. It's true. They are great. But
indies have been keeping me and you sane.
It has been
over the last couple of
sane,
years.
But when you're doing these individual podcasts, you kind of got to get through it. And I'm telling you, even this week, I can't say that I'm more, over the top positive on every book, because we have a bunch of books that seem like they don't serve a purpose, like The Question, All Along the Watchtower, or stuff like that, or even like that Metamorpho book that some people like, but the Black Light, like some of these books end up like, okay, this Absolute stuff, Absolute Batman, we just did. I'm not going to say it's going to blow people's minds, but it has a purpose. You know what the purpose is? To kick babies. And for me to giggle
to be entertaining.
To have an entertaining, over-the-top Batman that you could just be like, oh my God. And it's getting to the point where you have to be thinking, I want to see what the hell this guy does next. Like, this is crazy stuff. The set pieces are insane. and all that, which is really cool. It's really cool in landscape with what we're saying now with Marvel and more Marvel, but DC as well, where a lot of these writers are like more concerned to have people standing around talking. So many issues this week are just people standing around talking. We have an event at Marvel right now, that One World Under Doom, where you get a poli-sci course of what democracy means versus this and that, and they're all talking. And I want some action. I want baby kicking. And we get it. So that's why maybe I'm just, it is a weird play that maybe I'm positive because there's some pretty decent books, but I want all of them to be like this because, as you said, when we get done recording sometimes and you don't like something, people don't realize it depresses me. It's like I'm not in a good mood afterwards. I end up like kind of feeling down. But when I like something, I'm fired up. I might go for a jog or something, but I actually have to make dinner when we're done here. So then that's what I'll be doing. But we'll move on to the next deal. And I think I'll make a nice dinner, not a shitty dinner, because I'm in a good mood. But it's Absolute Flash #1. And it's Jeff Lemire writing, Nick Robles on art and cover, Adriana Lucas on colors, Tom Napolitano on letters, Katie Kubert on group editor, Chris Conroy executive editor. So when you jump into this again, I think that my hype level was too much. I will admit that. I think that I thought this was disappointing, but mainly because I thought that it was going to be bigger and better. And it's not really fair to the book because some of these first issues, say Wonder Woman, a lot of people were wondering what that was all about. The Superman issue, I thought that Superman now is finally getting to the point that I'm really enjoying it, but it did take 5 issues. So to say I needed this to really come out of the get, but again, these other books have so much going on now that you're at a point, okay, everything's cooking now, let's go. And then we're starting with this, and it's kind of a weird, subtle start. And it ended up making me kind of like, yeah, I didn't like it as much, but is it because I thought, and when these were announced, and the minute this Flash book was announced, I said, like, this is going to be my favorite. I love Jeff Lemire. I love the Flash. Boom, we're going to get going. And it is kind of a weird first issue that you kind of have to kind of wait. And I always say, like to give 3 issues of something. And I would say by 3 issues, I think this will be going pretty good. But this first issue is a little odd where you do end up having Wally. He's young. He's kind of, walking the rails. Here, he's not the Flash. You end up with 2 days ago. And, throughout this whole thing, you're expecting, okay, when is the lightning going to happen? When is he going? But things kind of go like weird. I didn't expect Barry Allen to be in it.
No, Jim, let me ask you at this point, before we get into the review, like, what is the purpose, like, of these Absolute books? What are they meant to do? Are they deliberately going to make a different version of the story? Is it like going to be completely original?
And that's the weird play. Like, who knows? I mean, I get it's another universe. It's a universe with the whole idea of Darkseid dying, and it seems to be like a universe. Yeah. But they haven't really spelled it out. But they did a little bit like a universe with less hope, that sort of thing. But you could do anything. Are they meant to interact
with each other? These
and they will eventually, supposedly. Well, the characters in the Absolute universe, I'm sure, but even this Absolute universe is supposed to fold in. They're going to have a big event and end up going where it might combine. I think it's a mistake. I think this should be by itself and just keep going. There's also talk where Scott Snyder said, hey, this will probably last around 2 years. I'm like, why put a time frame on that? These are really doing well. Just have fun with it and keep going and develop this world. The nonsense of having to tie it in and maybe not have it going too long, I think is a misplay. And I think that if you set it up that way, by the time that we get to the point where they're like, well, we wanted to, there's no way DC with the numbers, if it's still getting, are going to allow this to go away. It's going to end up what they did. And I'm telling you, what I worry about, if people would, kind of, if they do read Marvel, would be Hickman and the Hox Pox, the X-Men stuff, where they were doing this and it was doing well. So Hickman wanted to advance things and kind of go to the next phase. And Marvel's like, no, we're going to hit here. He leaves. And then all hell, it just falls apart. You kind of ruin what you had going. So I hope that
we got Rocky in the chat, Jim. Shout out to Rocky. Comic Boom saying he was hoping for a Barry Allen as Absolute Flash. Yeah. Since he sees Wally, the primary Flash in the mainstream DC.
That is true. And hey, Rocky. And the thing is, people could argue, too, the idea of who's their Flash. And personally, Barry's mine. Though I really do like Wally, but I was more Barry. And again, it's because I started with the New 52. But reminding people that at one point, Barry, for some people, Barry was pretty much dead for, there were almost their entire life. Like, you know what I mean? Reading the comics, and when they're
Yeah.
big in comics, he was gone for a hell of a long time, and Wally was the guy. And I could go with what Rocky's saying, because we do have the heavy Wally. But again, if you're reading Cy Spurrier, you know, that sort
Good
of thing.
luck.
Who knows what
As
the
I
hell
told you
you're
before,
getting
Jim, and
there.
just let people know in the chat, I'm pretty new to the Flash. It's a character I've never read before. You know, all these years reading DC, never got into him. So, you know, I'm open to anyone being the Flash, as long as it's a good story, it's
Yeah.
original. But having them both in this, it's an interesting start.
It's interesting,
by Lemire,
and
isn't
the
it?
weird play though is that usually you end up with Barry. That's the play of what happened to his mom, and that kind of ties in, you know, Reverse Flash, all these stuff going, and
Yeah.
the accident and things like that. And Wally ends up kind of connected in with Barry, and they go. So I wouldn't have minded if we did end up, you know, having Barry first, and then maybe having Wally become like a Kid Flash, whatever. But maybe that's too similar. So you have this, and you end up
Yeah.
having Wally as an army brat. His dad really comes off, and I said to you before we started, almost like a Thunderbolt Ross type guy. Like he just
He
is
does.
like
He's over the
really
top, isn't
over
he? He's
the top
crazy.
angry until one point when the softer side. But again, Wally's mom dead. He kind of goes, maybe that'll tie in a little more as we go to find out. But he ends up where I think his dad at this point is like, whatever with the mom, that he can't have Wally have anything happen to him. Like, you could go that route of the idea that he's really, but he seems more angry, you know, than just protective. He seems like at one point, like I swear to God, I thought he was going to punch Barry in the face. Though Barry is doing weird things too, of like, hey, we have this top secret research center. I'll let this kid just come over and do that, which puts him at great danger. It puts all this stuff going on. But you do have these like time things where you do end up 2 days ago. And you end up in a weird play where you get this flash of light. And then there's Wally, who seems to be like there, and he doesn't know why. You know what I mean? Because he's like, oh, I got to slow down. And he's like, okay, you know where you
Question
are.
mark.
You know where you are. And so, like, what is going on with that? But
You're Wally West, and
walking.
you're completely alone.
Yeah, and
Poor Wally.
he's walking the rails, as I said. He's got
walking
a little
the rails,
fanny
Jim,
pack.
yeah.
Later, we'll see as a mullet. And
Like
there's
the
some,
littlest hobo.
yeah, really. He's got his bindle. He's there. He's got a harmonica going. He's eating hobo chili. You do end up seeing a bunch of like kids that are like they're not up to no good, but they kind of are.
They're hanging out, but you know,
those would be
he
the
walks
hanging
past
out
him, and
with
you can
Ben.
tell, you know, yeah, I'm a loner. We get
Yeah.
it. We get it, Jeff.
And
Yeah.
I like that too, where again, it is put, but you do have the dad then say, what were you hanging out with your friends? He's like, I don't have any friends, Dad. I'm a loser. But he's going, and it's okay. But he ends up at the Fort Fox, where we find out his dad's there. His dad's, you know, a military guy. He's a military brat. They've moved around or whatever. And when they go, they're given a little hassle. And then Barry comes out. Hey there, let him in. I'm like, all these people are fired. I mean, this is a like top secret where they end up going. He has to get on the base where he goes, but Barry's like, hey, you know, how about you want to see something cool? Because he does walk
I
him
know. Well,
home.
first of all, he's just walking him home, isn't he? So
Yeah.
come on, I'll take you back home. He's walking him, and then he's suddenly like, "Hey, wait a minute! Do you want to see something
Yeah,
cool?" Like,
exactly.
there's no way you could do this,
No,
Jim, is there?
at one point too, he has an apple. But when I first saw it, I'm like, is that like a pork bun? Look at that thing. It didn't look like an apple at first, but then
It's a Nikuman.
it's like, oh my
Japanese,
goodness,
like, savory bun.
I'm getting
Lovely.
hungry. But
Wow.
Barry, you don't say want to see something cool and then go in to look at it as if, I mean, what they go and see has to be one of the most top secret research projects in the world. And he's like, yeah, just come and see. We'll see what's going on. And he's like, yeah, whatever. But the play would have been better if Barry just said, like, hey, you look lonely, don't you have friends or whatever? And again, we got that. So Wally is going to do whatever, and he's, you know, bored. So he goes, and they do go. I mean, when you have to go into a facility where you're scanning your whole hand and shit like that, you can't just let a kid in. And the deal, and he plays off the idea, oh, he's just a kid, plus he's, you know, West's son.
Where are
but-
all the guards as well? Where's the
Yeah.
security? Like, there's just those two,
It's
and
just
like
them.
monkeys.
Yeah,
a
so-
bunch of monkeys.
Yeah, really. And so when you're reading this, me personally, I ended up where I thought, okay, what's going to happen is Wally, who's not supposed to be there, he's going to be like me. He's going to start bumping into shit. things are going to fall. It's going to start a chain reaction. And I actually thought, okay, maybe they'll both become Flash at this point. Maybe they'll have this whole play, but it doesn't really play out like that, because as they're going, you do end up, and you do see, you know, the mullet eventually there. Pretty cool. Like back in the day mullet. Also, I thought he had a tail at one point, but he doesn't. Also, whenever I see a redhead kid with a mullet there, I just think that suddenly John Connor's going to come and they're going to ride a dirt bike around because it's Terminator. But you end up where
John Connor's mate, what was his name? Yeah, he was, what wasn't he? He had a great little mullet.
Remember that mullet? That kid that's from like Salute Your Shorts or whatever. That kid was, the kid basically played the character of Scumbag Mullet Kid, and I loved it. So you end up where
I'm flashing
Barry,
back to Animal Man and Cliff at the moment.
Yeah,
Jim.
and Cliff's the same thing there.
Where's his metal t-shirt?
The Metallica shirt. So Barry's like, I love this too. Where Barry's like, yeah, you think this is cool, right? Hey, this is top secret. I can't tell you things about it, but boy, you're having fun.
Welcome to Project Olympus.
Yeah,
let me tell you all about it.
Like, holy crap, what are you doing? And then you end up having Wally's dad show up and like, hey, you know, you aren't supposed to be here. And he's like, why aren't you in bed? They called me. They caught you sneaking back in. He's like, I wasn't sneaking. I was just coming back. I ended up, you know, losing track of time. Again, he seemed to lose track of space and time a bit when he ended up having that happen. But that's when his dad is just like, sure, you run around with those no good friends. And like, what friend? I wouldn't have just yelled, what friends? I would have said, what's the name of my best friend, Dad? You know, and he's like, you know, that kid with the lazy eye. Like, Dad, that was like 8 places back. I have no friends, you jerk. And like, you know, the kid with the gimp knee that we call Cuts. I'm like, who are you? Those were your friends, Dad. Stop it. But he's really upset.
Wally's dad's called Rudy, right? I only found out because Barry says, Rudy, I was just showing Wally around. You know, I thought he'd get a kick out of some of this stuff.
Yeah. And
it's Colonel West.
That kind of does play out like it could be a different character and things going on because of other characters, really like a reverse Flash and things like that in my mind. But the idea, I don't know.
Okay.
But you end up where Barry's there and he's like, hey there, Rudy, you're just showing him around in a top secret facility that nobody can enter. And you just think it's like, whatever. And he's like, yeah, it's Colonel West to you. First off, jerk up. I'm telling you right now, he doesn't like Barry because Barry's too good looking. I can tell right away. I can
Jim
see
in
it.
the chat, just to shout out, Joseph's got an interesting idea here. Barry is absolute reverse Flash. Well, I think it might be where only Wally can see him and talk to him.
That would be crazy.
Cool theory.
That would be really crazy. But yeah, and this is the thing. I mentioned I forget what book. I think it was not The Question. It was something that we ended up talking about. I think it was Challengers of the Unknown this week on the regular podcast. I hadn't been reviewing it, but me and Simon decided we were going to review it because, again, Eric had left, so we're adding books. Me and you even added a couple. And I said that at the end of something like that, or a book that you're not really enjoying, you don't have theories. You know, the theory is, I hope that I don't have to read this bullshit anymore. That's what my theory is. I hope that I can theorize that this is only 5 issues long. But when you start liking stuff and it's well done, and again, I think that this is a question of too much hype for me, being a little disappointed. It's not bad, though. It's still good.
No, it's not bad at all. I don't think so,
I guess what I mean, I don't want to make puns here, but I thought that this was going to hit the ground running a little more. But I thought, okay, it was going to catch up to the others. But in fact, but still, I always say that you can tell something's good when you start having theories, especially a first issue. So when you end up with these theories, that means that you're thinking ahead. You think things are intriguing. You're wondering what's happening. And I think that's the
word, intriguing, Jim. That's what I said to you, isn't it?
Yep,
you know,
you did.
This first issue, it left me really intrigued. I want to know more. So to me, it's done its job, no matter what you might say about it.
Yeah. And again, it might not have lived up to this imaginary hype that I had that I'm going to be like, oh my God, this is incredible.
It was a bit like Aquaman, wasn't it? When that first started, Jeremy Adams, we were so hyped. It was kind of a little bit disappointing, but now it's really good and it's only 3 issues in.
Yeah. Now, in that, there's even just imagine if it was like garbage, or as the French say, garbage. Then you'd be really upset. Like the idea that I hyped it up to myself and even other people, because I kept saying, I can't wait. This is the deal. And, you know, you'd be I wasn't disappointed in that way of, oh my God, this was bad. It was just like, it was different. It wasn't what I expected. Now, in the meantime, you end up, and even Joseph is saying that Lemire is his favorite writer. Lemire, he's one of my top 3 writers. I love him. I love almost everything he
He's
does.
a great writer.
He's also
Yeah.
a really nice guy until Gabe started being wonky. Sus Gabe ended up where Jeff Lemire then blocked us, and it actually did. The one time somebody blocked us, that it really like kind of hit me, that I was like, oh man, because I used to actually, and even this issue, I would have said, hey, it's a great issue. I was expecting something. And he will engage with people, and he'll talk to you, and he'll let you know,
Okay.
like, oh, well, I
Cool.
wanted to do this and I wanted to do that. And seriously, I wish I could reach out and talk to him about the JSA, because that is a little wonky. But Gabe ruined it. He ruined it because it's Sus Gabe, and that's what Sus Gabe does. He sucks. So in this,
His
though,
reputation precedes him.
exactly,
Yeah.
and it was that Stephanie Phillips stuff with the Harley Quinn. So basically, a Stephanie Phillips Harley Quinn issue is what ruined it for me to talk to Jeff Lemire, and it's always cool. And people don't realize how much you like to talk to like your comic book heroes, the idea of writers and things. It's really neat to talk to them, and some of them just block you and things like that, which sucks. But I'm not as bad as Sully. Sully, if you block him, you're dead to him. He's done with you. So with that, though, you have Barry like, come on, take it easy, whatever. You end up where Colonel West says, like, I should have you fired. Like, and I think that the problem is, and I think that the only thing that saves Barry, legit, is that if you do end up trying to get Barry fired, it implicates your son in, and now he's going to have to be, because I don't know, this almost feels like one of those, if I told you I have to kill you type things, where they might just take Wally away. And we kind of see that later, even though it's what's going on, we're not quite sure, because he goes off, and again, he's get back to the house now. And Wally does what every teenager does. He put on his, his earphones and says, "Whatevs, Dad." And then heads off.
Jim, do you think, going back to Barry, do you think he's been a bit sus himself here? Why is he revealing so much? Why is he showing Wally around?
Yeah, it's weird.
That theory that Joseph said about he could be the Reverse Flash. He could be a bad guy in this
and
universe.
it could be the weird play, because we do end up seemingly like going jump time and whatnot. And if there is a Flash, that's something they do all the time. So it could be, or I don't know, like the idea that he sees Wally, and again, in the regular continuity, they're very good friends. He becomes Kid Flash and all that, and it kind of connects in with his bad upbringing that then sends him off to Iris and Barry, and he kind of goes. So I think that maybe Jeff Lemire's trying to push if it isn't, and it still could be the idea that he ends up being something different, but the idea of this relationship, and I think that Barry kind of sees himself in Wally. If you go with the idea that maybe his mom's dead in this as well. If you go standard, Barry Allen, that maybe he's looking at it like, I feel bad for this kid, and I kind of want to give him something to be excited about, but he goes way over the top. They should have went out to like the arcade, like that redhead kid in the Terminator. Right, they were at the arcade too.
Hanging out in the old Five and Dime.
Do that, or maybe rent a movie.
50 years ago.
Yeah, right, go to Blockbuster, because Absolute Universe definitely has Blockbuster still, and get a movie. Don't show them in the top secret thing with crazy monkeys and experiments, because it's crazy. And really, the dad being angry at Wally, it should be more of Barry should be done. There's no way that he should be allowed to do this. But you then end up where you have this weird play. You kind of jump to out in the desert. A lot of times when you
flash out to now, don't you? You see, this is now in the desert. He's sat on his own.
Yep.
This is a really weird scene, Jim. I have no idea what's going on here.
And again, no, it's weird. But typically, when you do have a lot of times with the Flash, they get the powers Barry or what. Barry, like a lot of times, will go to like the salt flats, and that's where you can test. Like, I'm going to test how fast I am, and he does that sort of thing. So I don't know if that's the case, or Wally's just here, just like, hey, I'm going to go out to the desert to be alone. But then
get
all
away
of a
from
sudden,
my dad.
Yeah, all of a sudden, and it's kind of cool. I didn't get it at first, but then you do. You end up seeing this vehicle, this crazy like G.I. Joe looking vehicle come, and then what looked like spaceships, but they are boomerangs. And they kind of go out and look, and it is that play of they're tracking down Wally. But again, if this is the idea of Colonel West is tracking, like, this is a little over the top, and the idea of
positive ID, Wallace West, do I have permission to attack?
And that's
Negative.
the weird play.
Return
Like, at first I thought it was like, oh man, he ran away, and they're kind of, but you don't really for runaways go, hey, should we kill him? Should we
Yeah,
bring him back
right.
alive? I'm like, holy crap. And
Dead
when
or
you
alive,
do,
Captain.
the funny deal of it is that silhouette where it is just Wally's wearing a hoodie and is actually wearing what I usually wear every day. And with the earphone, he actually looks like the Flash. He looks like Wally Flash as he's running silhouette-wise. But in this, there's the weird play of this issue. We're not getting a lot of Flash, right? We're not seeing
Right.
him in the deal. And again, people were saying, oh my God, this Absolute Flash looks emo and he looks this, and we don't even really get much of it until at the end, which I do say, and I'll say it again when we get to it, I do think that they were like editorials, like we need to have somebody in a Flash costume, so they end up flashing forward to their year.
At least one moment, yeah.
But this,
But
I
Jim,
think
what
that,
do you think? Can I ask you? What do you think about this Wally being a teenager in this? I think that's a pretty
like
cool.
it. Yeah, I like
cool
it,
take,
and
you know?
it'll
Yeah.
play off. I mean, you kind of had that play in the movies, you know, a younger deal with Ezra Miller, but in the idea where if they do combine, I do like maybe having a younger Flash that can end up,
Yeah.
you know, combining with everybody else, and it makes it more diverse. And the idea where you have a goddess from hell, you get this crazy dump truck Batman, and we'll see how all the other characters go. But I think it's pretty cool. You get the Rogues then, and just visually, I'm like, that's pretty awesome. Like that page with them and like a Captain Cold, and it's one of those where
It's so cool.
they're
I
saying the
wanna
things
know
you have
more
to
about
learn
them.
more about the things, and you know,
Yeah.
mirror, you know, all this mirage.
Do you know
all
who?
this
Do you know
thing
who
going.
these are, Jim? Because again, like
No.
I've got no background.
It
With
looks
Flash,
like it
really,
might
so.
be Jesse Quick. It's weird, but you do have Captain.
Jesse,
you get
Lisa,
Captain
Harkness.
Boomerang. Lisa is the deal of, I believe, you know, Captain Cold's sister. But you have Captain
Okay.
Cold there, who looks pretty cool. Looks like a good-looking
he
dude,
does.
right? And you have those
Yeah.
weird fatigues,
Like
but
that
we don't
shock
know
of grey
much.
in his hair.
Yeah, really looks like a Jason Todd, and that mustache
Ooh.
is quite the mustache there. But yeah, you end up where you don't really know, but it's really cool. Like that's the stuff that you look for in these alternate things and whatnot. And yeah, even when he puts on the glasses, they're the classic like Captain Cold glasses, but they end
Captain
up where he's
Cold.
going with
Okay.
it. Yeah,
Got
so
it.
you have that, and Boomerang is kind of funny with that play of like, hey, the boomerang's gonna go, and they're like, don't talk about the boomerang like it's somebody
Always going on about
weirdo.
the boomerangs, aren't
Yeah,
you?
yeah. So then you go in and you play this deal where Wally's running through this cave, and then things fritz out again, and we've had that deal, and then suddenly he, in my mind, becomes a real loser because he's playing the bass, and nobody wants to play the bass. So he's there with that. He's there going, and it might be a guitar. It looks more like a bass to me, but he's there just hanging. You go the one day ago, and it's a weird jump. And again, we don't quite know what these things mean. So it's intriguing, though. But
It appears he's jumping through,
Yeah.
through time,
It-
doesn't he?
yeah.
Like without any control. So
Yeah.
something has triggered
it
this.
seems
and
like
kind of-
he's unmoored in time, where he's just boom,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
he has to react to go and gets into it. But at that point, his dad does come in and ends up like being nice then.
He shows a nice
You know
side
what I
of him.
mean?
Yeah.
Like he does seem like he's just worried about Wally, and
Something
he's
I want
worried.
to talk about last night.
Yeah, and and he's like, yeah, you know what you saw in the mountain. He's like, what did I see, Dad? I'm like, well, what didn't you see? If they kept going back and forth, but
The work they're doing here is dangerous, Wally. That's all
yeah.
he says.
I think what he also should say is don't mention to anybody that you saw this because this is bad stuff. But
For God's
he
sake,
ends up
don't mention
with-
the monkeys.
yeah, really, we don't need that monkey. No monkey business here. But he ends up where he's like, oh my God. Then Wally freaks out. Again, he's a teenager. I went through this too many times with the idea that it doesn't matter what his dad says. He's going to lash out. He's going to be angry. And he says, you know, we keep going across the country, keep making me come here and whatnot. And he's like, hey, it's my job. And then Wally says, what am I supposed to do? Like, it's all about me because I'm Wally West here. And he says, I hate this. And I don't even barely get ready because I know we're going to end up leaving and going somewhere else, and it sucks. And he says, at least
Barry showed some interest in
Yeah.
me, some potential. He's like, Barry,
Yeah, I'm telling
don't
you.
say his name.
That's the problem is that
It's like-
I think Wally in this even saying that because he saw how much his dad was irritated with Barry. So he's like, hey, Barry, I think I'm going to call him Daddy. What? What are you talking
Dad's
about,
thinking
Barry?
that, oh no, he likes Barry more
Yeah,
than
he's like,
me.
holy crap, like that Barry's a loser. I hate that guy. Look at that. He has a great set of hair, but I don't like him. But yeah, he's like, you are not to talk to him again. You understand me? And there's where you get the salute. Yes, sir.
I love that salute,
Oh,
Jim.
it's so
yes,
crazy.
sir. It's a
And-
classic, isn't it? The
Yeah.
rebellious
Oh, it is.
teenager, to his dad, to his army
Now-
dad.
and things are coming to an end here, but in the way of this, it like gets really confusing. It actually does get really odd where Wally goes out and I'm like, has he ever stepped in a puddle? What's he upset about his kicks? Like there is Converse that it looks like he has, but he ends up looking and he sees this reflection and then he sees all of these red things there that it seems again
Yeah,
it
the weird
seems like
reflection.
he
Yeah, these
is
red lights or
he's
something
off.
leading to a tunnel or
Again,
leading to the base, aren't they?
and if this is the play where when we get to a couple issues and this is where he has, obviously becomes the Flash and then things get wonky in his whole timeline and he's seeing things and going, I hope that it's explained better, but it's kind of just basically like leading a path. Might as well be
That's it. Those red lights. Are they meant to be leading him into the?
Yeah,
the
it looks
fort,
like that's
aren't
what
they?
it's doing. And as he goes,
And
he even
again, where are
sees
the
that weird
guards? Because
play.
1 minute he's outside, next minute he's
Yeah, I
in there.
know.
He's in the
He is
secret
in.
base.
Yeah,
The
they're like
lab.
set up like it's Reese's Pieces and he's freaking crazy alien. But he goes in, and how does he get in? Like you said, like
No idea.
there was all these things going, and boy, this monkey. Yeah, it's not loving life there with its brain. It almost looks like ultra humanite kind of deal. Or, it might be the play of how we get Grodd later. I mean, there's some things that you could end up getting with some cool plays here. But this thing really, and I can see, it says scree. What it's actually saying is kill me. I mean, this thing is a monstrosity. It's like, kill me. But it's really crazed, and that kind of freaks out Wally. And when Wally shows up in here, I wish that it was more because we have seen him move places and not knowing where he is. And I wish that these things where he sees that red and then boom, he's in the lab. That would explain a lot more of the idea that he's jumped through things and whatnot. But he comes in, he's like, Dr. Alan Barry. And this monkey scares him. He's like, I'm getting the hell out of here.
Get away, son.
Yeah,
Go,
this
run.
is crazy.
Is he wearing the Flash costume?
It looks like he is, but I
got a helmet
think
on,
that
hasn't he?
where they're going
Goggles.
with it's more of like a lab deal, but it does look like it. And he's yelling to get away, and when he says run, that's kind of a funny little wink wink, but he's like, you got to get out of here. At that point, I think he'd say, hey, lady over there, hey, miss, if you see Wally, because boy, his hair really is luscious there, and it's like, look at him with this look, and that's the look that people were like, I think it's cool, and it plays out the idea that it gives you almost like a back in the day time frame, too. Like, this is like 89, 91.
Again, it's John Connor's
deal.
friend
So,
all over again, but
yeah.
a better looking version.
Yeah,
and he's
way
got two
better looking
earrings in
version
as well.
Yeah, that
Well,
kid,
maybe even three.
Yeah,
Two
that
in
kid
one
in the
ear.
Terminator, that kid was, nobody's ever said he was good looking. He's just a redhead with a mullet. The kid's a wreck. So you end up with this going on. And yeah, you see like the eye being that weird play that looks electronic even. You see Wally getting affected by things. And even when you're getting towards this, Wally's looking in the water. You see lightning. It's very typical Flash stuff. Usually, again, Barry would have had the chemicals fall on him, lightning, boom, he should be dead, but he gets the Speed Force and all that, and then all the wonkiness of him creating it, all that stuff involved as well. But it's pretty cool where you're showing these things. And then we go to the now again. And now we end up where
being chased into
he's being chased.
cave.
Yep, by the rogues. And again, it's a cool play. It's very confusing, but it's set up that way. It's set up to be intriguingly confusing, so you come back and kind of get things explained. And if you are like me, I trust Jeff Lemire. I think he's a great writer, and I think that what he's doing is setting these things up to be cool moments in a way of being mysterious and see how they all tie together. But you do end up where you're going back and forth. And again, this cave was this weird play before where he seemed to be running and then disappeared and came up somewhere else. So he's running and it happens again, but you're also mixing it in and he's dissipating. I mean, this thing that Barry is in, there's a quantum energy field that is going out and it's affecting everybody, and it is making Wally kind of disappear. And then you get this crazy play that you see what he's going to get. It's the dead body of Barry, who's just a skeleton. That's crazy. I mean, it is really crazy. And he says, oh, Barry. And it really is a shock. Like, oh, holy crap.
The narration box saying, you did this, Wally. You killed him.
Yeah, it's crazy. And again, you have that going, and the rogues are... and the rogues don't look like, hey, we're the rogues. We like to cause some problems. They look definitely military. They seem to be, or an under covert deal that is part of this base, things like that. They look more
There's a
official.
weird moment as well, Jim, like the rogue with a weird kind of helmet.
That
mask
helmet,
on is
yeah,
saying,
yeah.
stop referring to that thing as if it's a person.
Yeah, and that's
Talking
because
about
that's
Wally, right?
the boomerangs. Because he says, as usual,
Oh, okay.
boomerang and I will do everything. And she's like, don't refer to that thing as a person, Digger.
Okay,
Again,
gotcha.
it's to give you the
misread that.
boomerang
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the Digger deal. But then I'm thinking, I hope that this whoever, I don't get near Batman because he's going to ear you up. He's going to right through that mask and then kick a baby. So that would be pretty cool. But you do have the cold gun too. It's really cool. The art's great. I think the art
I
is
really like the
spectacular.
art in this. Really,
And that of the main artists, I know we had a couple fill-in things that people weren't so hip on, but the main artist, well, Hayden Sherman isn't my favorite, but I'm getting used to the deal. But the other books look fantastic. And speaking of which, I have heard that the next issue of Wonder Woman, some people have read it already, say it's really, really good, and it has a guest artist that is really good. That's going to make people upset that it's not the regular artist. So, and it's somebody who Kelly Thompson, I think, had worked with before. So you have that coming up. But in this, you end up where you have that intriguing deal of, oh my God, Barry's dead. And then you get the flash forward 1 year later. And again, I don't know why you do this. It seems like an odd play to me, but I think it is the idea of just at least showing Wally there with the costume because he has it there and you get that flash emblem, but somebody's looking. And to me, it almost looks like Heat Wave or something like that with those goggles, but he ends up saying,
I have no idea who it is.
This
Time to make this whole world fall.
Yeah, so we'll see. And he's looking at a bunch of footage of what is going on, and you do even see what looks to be time travel involved. You get monkeys in that. The monkeys in the one lower deal looks more like a Grodd sort of thing.
Is this the gorillas from the Grodds?
And that's what it looks like. And then you even have Wally hanging out with that one gorilla with kind of like a crazy space age type of things around them and things like that. So I'm very intrigued. And again, this is actually, I said that this is definitely Mirror Master. I say that and he's like, mirror, mirror on the wall, and has all those. I'm sitting there like,
you go.
Yeah,
so
it's probably, it's that. So yeah, I don't know why I thought, the goggles look very much like Heat Wave deal, but I liked it. I liked it a lot. I thought that it was going to, and Kane actually said while I was saying that he probably even said before, I just looked, because I thought, I'm saying this, I know somebody had to have said that I'm an idiot.
Happy to see Mirror Master. Yeah, nice
so
one.
And it's cool.
I missed it. I missed that completely.
Yeah, and so when you go through this, and doesn't seem, in my mind, connected as much to the Rogues of that official deal going, so I thought, man, this is really, really cool with that deal of happening. And also I want to give a shout out. Drew ended up with thanks so much for the super chat. And he says, Absolute Flash #1 is first solid good issue from the Absolute line. He likes it. And he says, hey, Jim, you need to review Silent Nights. And that's his book. And I actually have recorded the review. I have to make the video. We actually did it. But because, and I don't know if Drew would be aware, the guy who does my podcast with us, the DC stuff, he ended up quitting. And I ended up having, I have this weird, Gray knows I have the weirdest schedule, so I will review, and we liked it. Me and Zach reviewed it, so we really, really liked it. So that will be going up on the YouTube this week. So yes, and thank you so much, Drew. But yeah, I like where
nice one, Drew.
I like that Kane was just like, "Hey, idiot, it's Mirror Master." I'm like, yep,
yeah,
it is.
Well, I didn't get it. Like Fairmont's talking about it, he didn't recognize him without his Cockney accent, but I thought he had a Glaswegian accent in the Animal Man run, Jim. Is that the same? Is that Mirror Master? You know, the guy, that really dodgy guy with the beer.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the thing. Me and you have had Mirror Master in the Animal Man, where they ended up jumping. That is him. So Morrison's you have that crazy deal, and that was really awesome with him there. And you end up where all this going on, and he ended up saying the artist is Hayden Sherman. The artist for the Absolute Wonder Woman is Hayden Sherman. They're going to end up where there is I think a guest artist that
they've got a guest artist lined up, and people are saying it. Cool. You know, they're really hyping it, Jim, aren't they?
Yeah. And again, at first I was a little taken aback by Hayden Sherman's art, but I think that I'm used to it, and he does some things better than others. I don't like his faces. I don't like the eyes of like Wonder Woman and things.
I don't like his Steve Trevor. He's too feminine for me.
It is a kind of a play, but
he's kind of attractive. Oh my God, I'm feeling things.
It starts to make it's the thing. It makes you confused, and that is something people don't like. So in that all with that play, what would you give this?
Okay, well, imagine like me as a new reader, because I'm pretty new to Flash, apart from Jeremy Adams' run. I really enjoyed it, even though I don't know a lot of the characters. I'm very, very intrigued. I'm going to pick up issue 2. So let's see, a solid 8 out of 10.
I'm an 8 out of 10 as well. I am an 8 out of 10. Oh, they end up where Dungeon Crawler Carl says, the solicit says it's still Hayden Sherman. I don't know if it's the next issue or if it's coming up. Somebody ended up reading, I think it was Rocky, actually, if he's still in the chat, said that he has read, he got a head, he got a thing, and he said the art is incredible. Like, it is incredible. So we'll have to see what it was. And maybe it was the idea that when they did solicit it, whatnot, that Hayden Sherman was going to be, but needs a little time because he's on some other
I've been
books
enjoying
as well.
his work on Dark Patterns, Jim. I know you're
That's
not
what I'm
enjoying it as
saying.
much. And that's more for the writing, isn't it? But I like his different take on Batman.
And remember, when Dark Patterns first started, the idea was going to be every 3 issues would change artists. And then Hayden Sherman and Dan Waters got along so well. And Hayden Sherman asked, hey, can I just finish this? Can I do it with you? And they decided to do that. So maybe that was the play. Maybe he just needs a month. I don't know. Maybe Rocky was trying to fool me. He ends up where he said he's still in there, but the idea,
still here.
Yeah,
nice
and
one.
I think it was Rocky who told me that there is a guest artist coming up on Wonder Woman that is really good, so he can let us know if that is the case or if I'm dreaming, because I did get hit by a truck and I might have gotten a concussion, so that might be the play. So yeah, and again, with all that, and that's where the Comic Geeks, the League of Comic Geeks and things like that is where I would go as well. But again, sometimes solicits are wrong or they change up and do things. So we'd have to say. He said, okay, issue 6, it's Matteo, is it like Scaluli, something like that?
No idea.
Scaluli. But yeah, so there is a different artist. But yeah, I'm an 8 out of 10. I'm an 8 out of 10 as well, and very excited about this. So we're going to end the regular deal, but we'll stick around because even Jack has a super chat, and we'll talk a little bit before we move on. This will be my relaxation time because basically with all this, like today, I think me and you recorded earlier today. Then I ended up recording with Brad. Then I recorded with Wes, and then I recorded with Zach, and now me and you. And I ended up finishing with Zach like really close to the mark. We were almost like late, really late, because I was trying to get ahead. I've recorded a lot today, and my
Jim,
mind
your voice
is
still
swimming.
sounds good for all that recording.
Yeah,
Me, you professional. You.
Yeah, I could hum a few dirty songs or something for everybody.
Oh,
We're going to end up. Actually, what we'll do is we will end this with a regular song, and then when we end the last part, maybe we'll hook in, because I do have a song. You know what? Screw that. I'm going to play the regular song. This is a song that we have for our Usagi Yojimbo deal. It's in Japanese for Gray, and I want his wife to verify that it actually means anything. But we'll still stick in the live chat. And again, if people are listening to this podcast form, if you want to join us each week when there are Absolute books. And next week, we do have Absolute Martian Manhunter, a new #1. And if, in fact, you're going to be joining me, Gray, I don't want to assume anything, but the idea where Simon might join us as well, because he really wants to talk that Absolute Martian Manhunter. He's read ahead, and he really likes it.
Cool. We've got Wonder Woman as well, Jim.
Yeah,
Absolute
and Wonder Woman
6.
So that's pretty cool.
So it's another double.
Have the deal. Yep, a double shot. So we will start having this, and I think that at this point, we should have an Absolute book almost every week, so that will get the scheduling. And
then the following week we got Superman and Absolute Green Lantern issue.
Yeah,
1.
so we have a lot of things. Al Ewing's
it's all
Green Lantern.
happening.
So yeah, and then hopefully they go like, okay, let's have these stretched out a bit and have each week with one. Maybe you double up because of the amount, but we'll see. And again, I told you I didn't want to go too long, but it was a #1, and you go, and then #1. Hopefully, it wasn't a #2 to everybody. And yes, Simon with the sus take. Simon was drunk as hell this week, but he said he'd be sober to talk Absolute Martian Manhunter. But it is late when we record over there in London town, so he may be drunk anyway. But we'll go out of here, everybody in the chat. If you want to hang and we talk a little bit of stuff, we will certainly do that. But thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining me, Gray, as usual. And we will talk to you next week.
Yeah. 月影に輪を隠して月影に刃を隠して人の耳が風を切る主を失い血の涙光を福祉の道を今歩む賞金首を追いかけて刀に宿る魂を旬のボタンを打つためウサギの侍闇を切る サギの瞳燃えている主の声が響き合い正気に首を追いかけて刀に宿る魂よ主の座を打つためウサギの侍闇を切る
All right, there you go. It is
Well-
that is definitely not New Jeans. That's the thing. And as we have the talk here, just to let everybody know, I know they're wondering on New Jeans is going to be coming out rebranded. So everybody can be excited about that. The funny thing is I was even talking about the whole deal with Brad today about me liking K-pop and that people they still don't think I do. Gray is here to let everybody know that I definitely do. It's like my favorite
I'm still
thing.
here just about. Can you hear me, Jim?
Yes, I can.
I was playing a bit to my wife, and she laughed at that part where it's like,
Yeah.
Usagi no samurai.
I'm like,
A
oh my
rabbit
goodness,
samurai.
great. Yeah,
So-
so you have that play, and yeah, you have the old pants. Fear Monarch says it's not New Jeans. Yes, it is. New Jeans, my favorite. But Jack Halsey actually has a super chat that said, been looking forward to the Flash book. Great to see Lemire and Snyder back in the same universe. Love the Swamp Thing Animal Man stuff that they did together in the New 52. And I like Jeff Lemire's Animal Man. And if you are a fan of Cliff, it really has some like heart-ripping deal with Cliff in it. Spoiler, I guess it's so long, but he dies in that.
I haven't read it, Jim, and you talked about the Jeff Lemire run before,
It's
so I'm
really
definitely going to have to
good.
check that out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
really,
really,
good. Yeah.
really good. And me and Gray have been going. We have a Grant Morrison podcast on both his YouTube channel and on our Patreon, and it's really that Grant Morrison Animal Man is like a must read. It's so good, and just some
it's
of the
brilliant.
issues are
Still
are
holds
so
up all these years
really,
later.
really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's the hey, it's Animal Man. Then one of my favorite songs. I like that one in that. But yeah, so the whole play of Lemire and Scott Snyder. I think that what you're seeing too, and even though Jeff Lemire came back and he's doing the stuff in the JSA, you're not going to get, I don't think, Scott Snyder, who's going to be coming back to do like a regular continuity book as much as, say, an Absolute, where he can do whatever he wants. And I think that is the play to get some of these writers in. And even, somebody like a Jason Aaron, who did most people like the Batman Offworld. It just got delayed. But I'd
Yeah,
rather have
It was
him
good.
doing this, this stuff, the Absolute stuff, than say, put him on Batman regular or a Superman, because I thought that it started out okay, but that Action Comics deal fell apart a bit. So I do like that. And again, I really like the Absolute stuff. And I think that that's what kind of gets me excited, is that the Absolute stuff is just pretty darn cool, right? And it ends
From
up
what we
being
hear,
a
it's
cool
still
deal.
like selling really well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Especially Absolute Batman. I think that's top. That's top of the charts again.
Exactly, yeah, and even that, like Wonder Woman seems to be like 2 and 3, and it's weird. Those numbers that come out that you get from that ICV2, they end up being kind of skewed. They're weird. They are
the
point of sale numbers. I mean, they're
unreliable, aren't
legit
they?
who bought it, but it depends on when the issue comes out. If it falls where that Wednesday is the last day of the month, you only
Yeah,
get
that
one
can be
day
a
of
problem.
sale.
That can affect it.
Yeah,
Jim, we
so-
hear like quite a few from actual people who work or even own comic shops, and they say, from what I've heard, yeah, the Absolutes, they're doing so well. They're flying out.
Yeah, and Brandon ended up saying that Grant Morrison is weird, weird AF. He
That's
is.
why I like it.
And I do like
him.
sometimes he gets way weird, but the thing that me and Gray are even going, and Gray is a fan and has read most of the issues and things that we do, like the Invisibles,
Especially
and,
his earlier stuff. I'm a
Yeah.
big fan. I think he's gone off a bit. I think he's
Yeah.
kind of, he believed his own hype maybe too much, or he just lost his mojo
yeah,
or something.
Yeah, maybe. And again, people get older and things get wonky. I mean,
Yeah.
Paul McCartney isn't writing them like he used to either. So yeah, but what we end up seeing, I mean, how many times, Gray, we said, man, this is like 20 years ahead of its time. Like the things, the
Yeah.
concepts and things like that, we keep saying like, man, he presents something that is a conflict in a book that isn't a real conflict until 20 years later in real life. Like you end up having a lot of those things going on, and like, you know, then you get wacky stuff like Danny the
Not just in
Street.
Animal Man, even Doom Patrol
Yeah,
too,
Doom
which
Patrol,
is
that-
crazy
again,
wacky. But
yeah.
some of the things in there, you're like, wait a minute, prescient or what? Jesus.
Yeah, if you end up in the last issue that we ended up doing, I think it was issue like 36, where you end up having that, you know, the idea of this guy losing his mind because people aren't normal and he wants them to be normal, but doesn't realize that he's wacky too, and just weird stuff. This guy and his wife are like the weirdest comedy routine ever, playing like this sitcom deal, but it's really, really good. It's really
It's crazy,
good.
but it certainly ain't dull. Say that for sure.
Yeah, that is true. And yeah, they end up where you have Joseph Wolf even said, like, it'd be cool if DC could get Grant Morrison. And again, the absolute stuff might have been the deal, but Grant, I think he's painted himself into a bit of a corner with the idea that he said like 3 times that he'd never work for the big two again, and then he does it, and then he gets mad again, and that whole thing with the Superman and the Authority, that book that was going to be part of the 5G stuff and whatever, that seems to have really rubbed them the wrong way of what they were trying to make them not do. And then they used it and kind of shoved it into Philip Kennedy Johnson's deal. And I think that might be it. Again, I say that and it probably won't be. And even like, I laugh because the idea of Rob Liefeld, when he's like, this is the last... I swear to God, it'll be like 5 years from now. I'll be like, there he is, he's back. But he seems committed.
I'm not working for Marvel ever again.
Yeah, well, they really did. They really did screw him. And I'll just ask too, since we're just hanging, the people in the chat. One of the things that came out this week is the idea that they're going to have that Trinity book from Tom King, and I'm wondering if anybody's looking forward to it. Because I did have some people message me and like, hey, are you going to be reviewing? I'm like, probably, but I'm telling you, the whole play with, I'm not a big Tom King fan, and I liked Trinity at first, but it kind of got stretched and I didn't care so much about it anymore. And now I don't know. I don't really think that I want the deal with it. But yeah, if I need at least one person to say, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm like, okay, at least one person's reading it. Because I ended up, one of the things that I've noticed, and I said to you and a lot of people saying on the podcast, that the idea of what people are reading and not reading, it's amazes me. Since Eric did quit the podcast, I need to find some people to review some books with me. And I just assume that with the Get Fresh crew, every book will be like, everybody's going to be reading at least one of these books and whatever. And not many people are reading some of these books. And I consider the people, like, these are comic fans. They're actually going out of their way to even pay to listen to things about comics and things. So they're invested in it. And yet they're not reading some of these books. And I think there is a problem with some of these side books that I keep saying. And I said to Eric, like something like what's it called? The Adam Project. Or something like the question.
What about Challenges of the Unknown?
Challenge of the Unknown.
It just
like,
dropped issue 4.
Are they cool enough? Are they giving like this all-in deal? Are they inspiring people to actually read the books, let alone becoming fans of those characters? And it just ends up where it just doesn't feel like it. Some of these books, I think, are there just to be there and to be kind of wacky. It kind of has a New 52 feel. Where you have but all these minis seem to just be failing. They don't seem to be doing very well. Like a Metamorpho, again, it has its charm, I guess. I can't.
Jim
I
got
can't
Kane asking, Trinity the trio of Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, or Trinity the character?
No, Trinity the character.
The character, I wasn't quite sure.
The young
either.
Trinity. That whole play that it seems like he's.
Who is she again? Is she the daughter
of Wonder Woman? And
Wonder
Steve
Woman,
Trevor through the cutting of the life thread and the
goodness
but
gracious.
Yeah, so I don't know there. Brandon wants to get hit by a Zach Braun full speed, then read Trinity.
Read Trinity.
And I it's weird.
Oh,
I think that at a point it was one of those things where the character could have been done in a better way to set up the book, but at this point I think that most people are already like, yeah, I've been there, done that. I have enough of that Trinity, and doesn't seem as fresh because they took too damn long. We've had specials and we had this and the backups and Wonder Woman. It just, I think they sat on it for way too long is what I think went on with that. But yeah, I just wonder. And again, I may even on our Patreon, I may have a poll for everybody and even public deal. And if I put the poll up, hey, are you going to be reading Trinity? And it ends up, and maybe we'll do that for a lot of these books, because I hate to end up spending 45 minutes each time a thing comes out talking about a book that not one person is reading, that's listening. And some people, it's weird. Some people do say like, oh, well, we like when you talk about it, then I don't have to read it. But it's one of those. It ends up, and that's the thing is, I think that one of the things that when me and Eric started everything and said we'd do everything, we'd reveal everything, that's what I thought burned him out. And then also, I think it's also the idea of that's what gets me miserable, because some of these side books end up being not that great, right? And so they kind of.
You're not a fan of Black Lightning, Jim? Power Girl?
Here's the thing. I'm a fan of Black Lightning enough, but I wanted a Black Lightning book, and that book didn't know what it was doing, and then it ended.
Yeah, no,
again,
to be
who
fair.
was reading the book? And when it
Decent
ends.
art, but
yeah,
the story,
and then
I
it
don't know.
ends in a non-ending that says, read the Power Company. I'm like, you don't tell me what to do. I live my own life there. Comic book. But I did say, me and Rocky had up to it. I'm like, yeah, I think I'll read the Power Company now. It kind of got me inspired. But yeah, that's Kane's like, thanks for telling us about Trinity. Now I can avoid it. Yeah, maybe she
There
will
you
go
go.
to the Space Mall. I have a Space Mall
Yeah.
song that I liked back in the day for that. I also ended up doing a song that was actually the Tom King song that he had in the Black Canary. The Black Canary sung in the one issue with Damien. And
yeah.
in that Trinity backup, and it actually turned out to be a pretty decent song.
Was it better
I'll give
than the
him
Dazzler
credit.
song, Jim?
It was way better.
Jason
I was
Lou?
just going to say that Jason Lou Dazzler song was complete
Oh my
utter
God.
garbage. I ended up trying to make a version of that, and and the weird play is in the way I have things set up. It's in this weird deal that it's like a favorited song of mine in the way that I do things. So anytime I listen to a song, if I don't stop it by the end, it will automatically go to that Dazzler song. I'm like, this song sucks. But I do like the Black Canary song. Pretty good. Yeah, and it would be more. It does seem like, you should be more of that all ages. It's the best. Tom King writing an all ages book. He'll make those girls and guys reading it grow up real quick when there's murder and genocide. It's like, hey, little
Oh,
kids, you know what?
God.
G's for genocide. And that's up where everybody's dying. Hey, look, kids, we're going to kill kids in this book, too. It's great. Yeah. But
Phil Monnick shouting out the old Tom King song, Jim, from the Wonder Woman books. It's a banger.
Yeah, I like that one. So you end up where all this stuff going, and I don't know. The idea of Tom King, I just kind of hope he goes off to the movies. Him and James Gunn can go and twiddle their thumbs together. And the idea that I'm like, yeah, I'll see what James Gunn's doing. But when every time I see, he's like, yeah, Tom King's the greatest. I'm like, yep, I don't agree there. And why does he think that? And even though I think, might have been, I wonder if it was me and Rocky. We were talking, and somebody that I was talking with, I did say, though, that legit Tom King might be better. Like some of his comics, maybe they would work better in a movie. First off, I can ignore them then, so I like that. But
You don't watch many movies, do you, these days?
Yeah, Kane says that Tom. I'm telling you, Tom King, he's going to make these kids grow up real quick. They're going to be inundated with genocide. Also, it'll be the Trinity hanging out with her like 8-year-old friends, all of them smoking. Because every book that he does, it seems like, especially like Black Label and stuff, it's like chain smoking out the wazoo. It's crazy. So maybe we'll have that. That'd be hilarious. Now, I wish that I could draw and I would make like a little comic strip of an all-ages Tom King book. It'd be kind of funny to do that. But, yeah, he kills characters of all ages, and he does. I said, Tom King doesn't really know how to get a lot of emotions in his writing itself, so he ends up having to do over-the-top stuff like kill children. And,
Shock value.
Besides Gray, nobody loves kids. And even then, the idea where nobody wants kids to be killed, you just want to you want to punt them. You punt the babies, not kill them. But he always has kids dying, and it always plays out bad with me. And
that really tickled your fancy, didn't it?
Oh,
Jim?
I loved it.
Moment.
That was the funniest thing. And the thing is,
Batman.
I ended up where I was talking with Wes earlier, and he had he's like, I don't know, like this and whatever. I'm like, what'd you say? You said something about punting a baby. And I'm like, oh, I can't wait. That was pretty good. But yeah, that's all he does. Fear Monarch even says he murders people for the emotional reaction because he can't get it through his writing. He can't get that deep connection with the character because he doesn't quite know the characters. and they end up being surface level. All this character work to me is always surface level and comes down to the idea, like, say, a Batman. The Batman was in the New 52. That's a human Batman. It's the man, but you never got past that. And then people would argue with me. It's like, he shows real emotions. I'm like, I think the only emotion he's showing is extreme anger, that he's yelling all the time, and it doesn't really play out well. I think that it is a weird play, but yeah. Then I see, like, Comic Boom says, the Trinity miniseries involves Crisis of Corgis. The dog thing, definitely a skip for me. And for Rocky to skip things, Rocky is very, generous and positive about stuff. And him skipping that actually is like really shows. And as a Tom King fan, I don't want to sell him out here, but he does like Tom King more than me.
Doxed his ass.
And again, that's the other thing too. And I was talking to Brad today about things, and I do like the idea that a lot of the people who end up listening to us and following us, and even on our Patreon, it's not the idea that it's set up to be like, you better agree with me or else. I do get angry because I like to be right, whatever. But most people have their own opinion. And Rocky, I would never, be mad that he likes Tom King. I remember at one point he didn't. And Tom King was winning him over in some of the Black Label stuff and things like that. I just never got there. Don't
forget, Jim, back in the day, you were a big fan of Tom King as well.
Yeah, I did like the Grayson.
To prove it.
I liked the Grayson book a lot, and I liked Dick Grayson. I thought that was, but then that fell apart, and I did like the beginning of Batman.
I did. I enjoyed his Vision. Vision was good. It got into his Batman run to begin with, but then it lost me when we got to the year of jokes and riddles,
or the other 3 times he wrote it, because that was like Mr. Miracle. Yeah.
Where's your hi-hat, Jim?
And I didn't love Mr. Miracle. A lot of people like that, but I did give him props this week when me and Gabe, for the spotlight, we end up talking about the New Gods and how Ramvir's trying to give you the lore and stuff of the fourth world and all that stuff, and the whole idea of the New Gods. And I said that's the shit that bores people. Like, that's why it usually doesn't work. And I said I'll give credit. Tom King, maybe because he didn't quite know everything or whatever, he made Mr. Miracle and Barda like relatable as parents and things like that I think was the key to that. Because when people do talk about Mr. Miracle, which I didn't love, but a lot of people they have a personal connection with that. And a lot of people will bring that up. Nobody's saying, I really liked how New Genesis was portrayed. I mean, just think of the idea. One of the big things in that is that people like the veggie tray and Darkseid. That Darkseid, that's not quite a new that's not quite a lore thing. It's just a crazy thing. And I think that Ramvir's losing some things in it. He should be concentrating more on Mr. Miracle and Barda and things like that. So, yeah. Oh, Brandon said that Tom King's a hack, just read War of Jokes and Riddles. If you really want to hear me lose my mind on our regular podcast, the issue of The Brave and the Mold and then into the Jokes and Riddles is when I completely lost my mind, and actually had other podcasts that actually had clips of me losing my mind and were making fun of me, and I wanted to beat them all up. I was so angry because I completely lost it and just yelling about how things Tom King sets up a scene, never thinks of the full scene, and does things that are odd that wouldn't really work, but you have to kind of let it go. And at that point, Tom King's stories always were ambiguous. And I said at that point, like, if you leave, and people, I like it. It leaves it up to the reader. I'm like, there are too many people reading Batman to leave it up to the reader that then we go forward and nobody knows what the hell is going on. But yeah, it was crazy. It was a crazy deal. Yeah. And Rocky said, you have to leave Tom King to 12 issues. And I do think that's true. I did have, at one point, Scott Snyder told me that the thing with Tom King is he doesn't like to know how his stories end. He doesn't have a full out. He likes to let the stories grow organically. But that
limit
also
him to
shows,
6. Oh no, go for 3. What the heck? Why
Yeah.
just 1? Single issue,
Yeah,
an
really.
annual.
And so the big play of it all was it always ended up being this play of like things would change. You'd have weird plays by the end of some of these things where you have the puddlers in Heroes in Crisis disappeared. Or you have to have exposition at the end to, kind of get things. And that Heroes in Crisis was garbage. But yeah, so Gray has stepped away a bit, so I'll just keep on yipping and yapping. But yeah, I don't know why it became a Tom King show, but Yeah, I don't know. It seemed like Tom King was making a bit of a comeback with some people, but it ends up being just, I think, the same fans and whatnot. And I still go by the fact that you can be a Tom King fan until he writes your favorite character, and then he just destroys things. But yeah. Yeah, other than that, just to remind people, I should have said at the end of the regular show before we cut into this bit that if you did end up seeing, I ended up doing a show with Sully on Sunday, last Sunday at like 10:30. I think we started that. It's kind of a, hey, let's just talk whatever comics are around and what we can end up doing. Me and Sully are planning on doing that again this week, and we might throw out some indie books along with some Marvel stuff. He's actually loving the Eddie Brock Carnage. He's also really loving the Ultimate Black Panther that I don't really like, but we might talk those. But there's some other things that came up. There was a Mouse Guard comic that came out, and I really do like Mouse Guard, so I think I might finagle him into that. But we might talk things general. But we're going to be doing that as well on Sunday morning. And yeah, you end up, Brandon said to give Tom, he says he's a premise guy. I forget who it was that I used to say was an idea man, who I think is also a good idea man, but ends up falling apart by the end, is Joshua Williamson, who has too many ideas at points and then gets kind of lost in the mire of them. But yeah, that's the thing, though, is that's what happens. Tom King does kind of lose track of his narrative. One of the big things, and when you read through the deal, is when you end up, and I think it was Kadeem, it was where Batman and Catwoman had to go and see Talia, and it was just stress. Anybody who goes in can never come out. Anybody who goes in can never come out. Not only did they go in, but afterwards they just left, and it really never played. And then that's where you get Catwoman sword fighting Talia. First time Catwoman picks up a sword and ends up being able to beat Talia, who's trained with the League of Assassins. It was nonsense. But yeah, you have Fear Monarch says,
you still good about Tom King?
Yeah. And actually, that's the thing here. The weirdest thing that Fear Monarch says. Yeah, I was waiting for you. But do you ever read Mouse Guard stuff? Or like
No.
Redwall deal? There's
No.
a Mouse Guard. I ended up sending you the review copy. But there's a Mouse Guard book. I really like Mouse Guard. And I really like Redwall. One of my favorite things. So when I didn't realize it came out this week. And so I ended up finding out about that. And I was saying that on Sunday, me and Sully are going to talk a couple things, early Sunday morning at like 10:30, and we're going to end up going through maybe Eddie Brock Carnage, but I'm going to try to convince him to talk about Mouse Guard and see if he even knows what that is. It's really cool. I like,
interesting.
and the thing is, the weird play is me and you do a Usagi Yojimbo deal. And I do like anthropomorphic stuff. I always love it. I think it's the coolest thing. And so Mouse Guard was something that I got behind him. Redwall.
I've never heard of this boy. It looks a little bit familiar now looking at it, the images.
Yeah, it ends up being something where they had a bunch of like books where you'd have just like art and little things going,
David
but
Peterson.
it has been a deal. Yeah, and it's again, it's not like a everyday household thing, but at one point it was even more popular. But again, Redwall I thought was great. I love that too, and like Watership Down and stuff like that was really good as well.
Scarred me as a kid watching that animated movie.
Yeah, that animated movie. That and that. You ever see The Water Babies? That British movie?
Yes, I remember that as well.
I don't know why that freaked the hell out of me, but that Redwall and Watership Down. I mean, really, like, oh my God, they're butchering them. Like, oh my goodness. That ended up asking about the Absolute Martian Manhunter. Brandon said, "Are we thinking Absolute Martian Manhunter is any good?" I ended up, that's why Simon has read it. And legit, this is the play. I ended up getting an advanced copy of that. I thought, did I send it to you, Greg? Did I send it to you?
Yes, I've read it. I've read it twice, and the second read actually was a bit better than the first
liked
read.
it better. Here, Simon said that the same deal. The thing is, I can't even bring myself to read it yet. It's just everything about it. And I'll just tell you, Dennis Camp, I don't like the guy. I think he needs to wash his hair. Smoke a little, allegedly smoke a little less pot. I don't know if I can get in trouble with it. But the idea where he's kind of a jerk and I don't like him. So I will read it and review it and I'll give it its fair shake. But I don't think that he's very good. I don't think he's a very good writer. I think that he's at a point where he's a little hyped. And in a weird way, Scott Snyder has been getting a hold of Gabe and kind of giving him guff for his Ultimates. And I think he's setting up the idea that he thinks that Gabe is going to give bad reviews to Martian Manhunter because it's in his camp, and he's trying to give him this deal. But in another deal, why would you think, and this is some rumor stuff, so no, we're not going to pass this along. This is only between me, Gray, and everybody else. But Scott Snyder got a hold of Gabe this week and asked him why he was so harsh on Ryan North's One World Under Doom. And actually, me and Gabe were recording when he got that. And I was kind of trying to give Gabe, like, here, this is what you say to him, because it sucked. And Gabe wouldn't do it. But the idea is, why would Scott Snyder be concerned about a Marvel event and a Ryan North deal? And I think that maybe, and he's really concerned about the stuff that Dennis Camp was doing that is now going to be, I think that maybe they're going to announce Ryan North might be doing an Absolute book, some new Absolute book or something. It was very odd why he's that concerned about that book and what review Gabe gave. So it was kind of a weird deal. It's kind of a side theory, but Scott Snyder gets a hold of Gabe a lot, it seems, to bitch about his review scores. It's very odd. And then had the audacity to talk to me on Twitter at one point on a message and say, is this Gabe? I said, really? You think I'm Gabe? You think I'm sus? Holy moly, I got so angry. But yeah, so the whole play is, I don't know. But I don't know, if anybody's reading the One World Under Doom and can convince me that it was readable, then I'd be very impressed, because I did not like it.
Jim, I don't know if this has changed, but the Absolute Martian Manhunter, it was down to be, it's a 6-issue miniseries, but if it sells well, they'll, continue it.
You know what's weird? That's what the writer of, and I can't remember who it is, on Batgirl, ended up saying that on Twitter right away with that, saying it's 6 issues, but if it sells, I think that maybe DC's playing that game with a lot of stuff.
Where we don't even realize. Isn't it? Yeah.
And Two-Face is ending. And then also one of the things going is, I don't know, because a lot of times I think something's 6 issues, then it's 5 or it's 12 or whatever, but it looks like in the new solicits, there wasn't a solicit for Metamorpho. And people were talking about this on Twitter and ended up saying, oh man, it was always going to be a 6-issue mini. And when you look at the solicit for the 6th issue, it doesn't sound like an ending. It's like, Metamorpho's off to the stars for, this and that. I'm like, yeah, so people were talking about that.
Absolutely canceled.
But definitely, yeah. And that Metamorpho, again, you're playing a game with that book that you're just really, like, it was a parody of a fanfic. It really was a weird play to go full out, hey, let's make fun of Silver Age stuff. But it's all in. So you would hope that it would be for newer readers. It wasn't. That book was driving me nuts. But I said I'm going to get Jason to review it with me because he likes it and whatever. And Green Arrow and Poison Ivy. Poison Ivy was weird because then it ended up being like 10. Then it was ongoing. And every time it got extended, it seemed to change the focus of the book in a weird way and whatnot.
Yeah,
but yeah, Green Arrow, with the Joshua Williamson deal. And that ended up just being a book that set up absolute power. It wasn't my favorite, but the new, I want to like the Christopher Condon one a little better, but I'm kind of bored with that. And there's a lot of like serial killer. Hey, the government here did us this. They did us dirty with the water. And it was kind of the story with the Wound Man in the Dark Patterns as well. It's very similar to what's going on in Green Arrow, and it's not really getting me going. But yeah, Metamorpho died on the way to his home planet. He kind of is Poochie.
Oh, no.
He's the deal. Like, really, it's like, that's it's not great. So yeah, in that, I do have to go at some point. I'm actually going to probably get a hold of Zach. I'm supposed to do Titans with him when we're done. I think I've had enough recording for the day. I'm pretty tired, and I have to make dinner.
Poops, Jim.
Yeah.
Well,
I am because I recorded so much I couldn't go to the bathroom, so I'm pooped in the pants. Is what I am.
Oh my god,
that could be a song.
Here we go.
And again, when we do this, I could end with a sus song. I had legit though. Just as I know everybody is waiting with bated breath for the Sus Records update. Legitimately, this week I finally had another song that ended up hitting the algorithm, and I'm checking right now. In the meantime, I believe that in the past 2 days on the Sus Records deal, I gained 600 subscribers. And where I look, this song That is the one that hit. It is now in 2 days, I believe it would be out, 2 or 3 days. It's now at
Dun, dun, dun.
160 some thousand. So it's actually, yeah, it's at 160,536.
160,000?
So yeah, and ended up just that got me 732 new subscribers.
Jealous.
And to let everybody know that you can make money on YouTube. This is like a 3-minute song, but it's already made me over $300. So boom, that's where I say, take that, Paul McCartney. I shouldn't reveal this. People are going to rob me now. I'm like a rapper. I mean, but yeah, some of these things you can really, if they hit, it all depends, and it's all based on if YouTube plays the deal, and that of course is the song. Do you want to fondle my tits? Which obviously is a classy song.
Oh my God.
Through and through. But some of the other songs lately are "Help Me Make a Cream Pie" and "He Ate My Bleep." So there you go. Oh, it's actually "He Ate My Bleep" and it felt like a kiss. So there you go. Maybe I'll play that. I could play. Should I play a sus song on the way out? Again, I do this, and all this stuff is weird to have out on this extended play of when people listen. They're like, I just wanted to hear about the Absolute books. I didn't need a dirty song.
What's going on?
But I might have to play that. I also have a song about a farting song that, as Gray knows, that's what started the whole thing. But it's called, and it's a British kind of like a Petula Clark song that ends up being
okay.
a deal that's the person who smelled it dealt it. That's that one. So
Oh,
it's fun
Jesus.
stuff. But I'm gonna actually play. I'll play the one that ended up being the trending deal, so people can just shake their head and get really upset about the
Do
Sus
it,
records.
Jim.
But Kane says only classy people understand the subtleties of the deal. Now, remember the idea that I do tell people they're not as dirty as some of these songs that people make, but I do stress the idea that I'm trying to make them as authentic to the time period that I can. That makes me seem a little more classy. That's where I get the classiness. Don't you get it? I'm really into the 1940s songs. And this song is like a 1940s, 1950s song. So we will be getting out of here. But yeah, that's the thing. Kane came for the Absolute Reviews, but stayed for Sus songs. And yeah, the thing is, between Sus Records and the Beatles, I would have to say Sus Records. I love the Beatles so much. They're my favorite. I get in fights with everybody about them now. Nobody seems to like them anymore. I don't get it. They are awesome. But yeah, also, or I have the country song, I Don't Like It in the Shitter, but I'll try. That's the one I sent to you, Gray. And Gray, when I send him, he's like, I don't know about you, and gets very concerned with my deal. So I'm going to go with this one. So we're going to get out of there. But thanks, everybody. Thanks especially to Super Chats, all that. And do look out, because Drew's book Silent Nights, we will be having the video review up for it this week, and it's really, really good. It really is
cool.
a
Look forward
cool
to that.
indie book that he's done. And it really ends up, if you are kind of sick of books that just have people standing around talking and doing nothing and aren't as sexy, because boy, it is sexy. It's sexy from the beginning, and it's really, really good. And in fact, I ended up, I reviewed it with Zach, and I didn't want to tell him right away, hey, this is a guy that I'm friends with, and I know, because then I thought he might skew it a bit. So I didn't tell him. I actually just sent him, like, hey, this indie book, whatever. And he read it, and he got back to me right away, and he's like, it was really good. And I'm like, damn right it was. So yeah, Dark Side does. It's Sus Records is what we
Sus.
have
I'm
to say.
just writing that right now. I'm typing
Deal.
it. Sus
It
is.
is. So you have to go.
Gabe.
So people can listen to the deal. That's the funny thing is Gabe like goes with the Sus Gabe. When I gave him that nickname, legit, I love the word. I thought it's great. So when we did this, I thought Sus Records would be the idea. Though it's weird if you do look it up and try to find it. It is Sus Records CEO because somebody had it. But then there's also a Sus Records topic channel that is my streaming channel, and they do this weird shit. It drives me nuts. It kind of doubles up and confuses people. But in the meantime, I always put the link, but we're going to end with that. So thanks so much, everybody. Greg, I love to force you right now to listen to this because it's ending the deal, but we're going to end with that. So thanks, everybody, and we will
Cheers.
talk to you next
Take
week.
it easy.
I I don't want to seem forward, but I'd like to see you tonight. Maybe we can have a late dinner and take a walk under the moonlight. And when you take me home, that's when the real fun begins. I don't want to be alone, so I invite you in. And if you don't know what to do to me, here's a suggestion or three. Do you want to fondle my tits? Can you find a face for me where I can sit? Maybe you can do me so hard that I lose my wits. Yes, but first off, do you want to fondle my tits? Now we understand each other, we can just cut to the chase. Maybe you can give me a cream pie or finish all over my face. We can just keep on hopping till we see the break of dawn. My bones are made for jumping, and I just mowed my lawn. But if you still don't know what to do, I have some questions I'd like to ask you. Do you want to fondle my tits? Can you find a face for me where I can sit? Maybe you can do me so hard that I lose my wits. Yes, but first off, do you want to fondle my tits? While you're deciding, maybe I can play with your nuts. I can even run my tongue from them all the way back to your butt. And while that's going on, I think you'll see just what you can do to me. Do you want to fondle my tits? Can you find a face for me where I can sit? Maybe you can do me so hard that I lose my wits. Yes, but first off, do you want to fondle my tits? Come on and fondle my tits.